and Mike. Hopefully, Demetrius will be joining us very soon. I was just looking here at this Pitt game. Pitt is having its way with Georgia Tech. Michigan is struggling very much against Wisconsin. And let's see how some of these other Saturday games are turning out here. But I do see that Mr. Carroll is here in the queue. So, Bill, how are you doing this evening?
So far, so good. And you, sir?
And, hey, another day above ground. I'm fine. I'm good.
There we go.
You know how I feel. So, yeah, I was just looking at Pitt Georgia game here. A few other games. Any games that you're watching here?
Well, Memphis at Temple, Tennessee. So Hendon Hooker, as I may have mentioned before, is the son of a guy that I scouted. Since I guess you know what I'm talking about. You get to have those feel old moments. So Alan Hooker was a legendary North Carolina A&T quarterback. No, Central. Isn't he Central? No, I think it was at A&T. 30, almost 30 years ago, I guess. And his son Hendon, who started his career at Virginia Tech, is now at Tennessee. And finally, the Tennessee Volunteers have realized he's their best chance to have success on offense with him at quarterback. So that one, Charlotte at Illinois, obviously. You mentioned Georgia Tech, Pittsburgh, Texas Tech, TCU, as well as, of course, North Carolina Duke. I remember, of course, growing up on Franklin Avenue in Chapel Hill, seeing the Dukies, right? So the first football game I ever went to was actually NC State versus North Carolina in 1970. Let me see, what else? I'm taping Princeton, Columbia, but I'll get back to it later. And eventually I'll start watching Illinois State, Missouri State, USC, Colorado, and of course everyone's going to watch Cincinnati, Notre Dame.
Wait. Hold on. You're taping whom?
Columbia, Princeton. I'll get back to that one later. Obviously, everyone's.
So you have officially become the football nerd of the Sports Crib.
Well, I mean, you say become.
I don't know if there's 50 people in the entire United States that is taping. I'm not. There might be 60 watching, but I don't think that there's 50 taping.
We are exaggerating slightly because there's at least, by my count, about a little over 10,000 in the stands, right? So that puts us at least into 5 figures.
But they're not taping it, Bill.
Okay, you're right. They probably are not also taping. You're correct about that. You're right. Okay, you have me on that part.
Okay. Mike, I rest my case. Come on.
I love football. I love football, but I didn't even know Columbia and Princeton were playing. So.
Not only are Columbia and Princeton playing, but my man, Emory Hunt, is on the call. Shout out to Football Game Plan, a.k.a. Emory Hunt, my buddy. So, yes. This is serious. I do this for real. I'm not here to play.
Speaking of coming to play, Mike, it's a close game down there with Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, well, they were dominating, and then all of a sudden they try to, I don't know what they were trying to do, onside kick, and with like 37 seconds left, and then they got that touchdown right before halftime, and what was a 13-0 lead, I believe, is now 13-10, something to that effect, and so it's like, that didn't work.
Yeah, They tried to steal a possession right before halftime and try to get another quick score in. And because you can take Wisconsin out of their game plan if you can get up 2 scores. I understand the theory behind it. I didn't like the execution.
Yeah, it's hard, especially onside kicks. I just take the lead 13-3 into halftime, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
I would prefer that you do something else. Like, I mean, there's ways to steal possessions. and even ways to do onside kicks or things like an onside kick. And what I've seen work a lot recently, but you have to have a kicker who knows how to execute it, is the one where it goes hard right along the ground, skips along the ground for about 11, 12 yards, and then boom, you get the big secondary hop. If you have a kicker who can execute that, it's worth trying because it gets you very often through the first wave of the receiving team, and then that big hop gets to the guys who, how do I put this, are better at blocking than catching, I think is a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
And so I mean, my entire career was mostly special teams. So this is the one thing I can really talk about in terms of my experience as a player. I was L3 on kickoff coverage.
Oh, wow.
That's what I did. That was my job. That was my entire contribution at the collegiate level, in fact. I think I might have maybe 3 or 4 snaps at strong safety and like a couple of blowouts. But for the most part, my entire contribution, shout out to Coach Bob Hurd, Norfolk State University, retired, who was both our defensive coordinator and also a special teams coordinator. But that's what I did. So I can tell you about the mechanics of dealing with an onside kick, and the ones that gave you trouble, or at least me trouble, I'll put it that way. It's not just the guys who just kind of like squib it at you. Like that's, I don't know. Why do you bother? It's when they can get enough on it that it makes it cleanly through the initial wave, and then you get that secondary hop that comes, 5 to 6 feet in the air, or maybe more if you've got a guy with a really strong arm. Now you're asking guys with a lot of tape on their fingers to try to field the football, right? And that doesn't always work out.
No, and we're going to talk about the value of kickers here a little bit later on as we get down to watching things. But Mike, we talked about a couple games Thursday, and one of them was number 6 Cincinnati against number 9 Notre Dame. If Cincinnati should happen to win this game, do they deserve it? Let's see. Bill gave him number 5. But I say if Cincinnati wins this game, do they deserve to be in the top 4? I'm not saying that, I'm just talking about strictly rankings here. We're not talking about player against player, team against team. We're talking about just simply for the rankings.
I think it's really when you especially get up into that area where you're talking top 5 and top 4, it's really difficult to move up and jump up spaces, especially 2 spaces. And I think you definitely consider them in the top 4, but I don't know if they get the top 4 ranking if nobody else is in the top 4 loses. So it's one of those things where you definitely should talk about it, but will they get it? That's another story.
Let's see. There's a couple other things I was here. Oh yeah, Mike, do you think we're going to get a 50 home run hitter in baseball before the season's over?
Who leads? I know Fernando Tatis has like 40 something, 41. I don't know who else.
No, you got a couple guys at 48 right now. Bill, who's got 48 right now?
The catcher. What's that kid's name? Let me see. Hold on. In fact, he had a cool little congratulatory video from Johnny Bench, because he broke a Johnny Bench record, in fact. The old record for people who played 90% or more of their, almost said snaps. I'm so football obsessed. 90% of their playing time in baseball at center. The record was 46, which Johnny Bench held, and he broke that record. But yeah, so the home run race, if you want to call it that, right now is down to 2, maybe 3 players. Salvador Perez, the catcher, as I said, from Kansas City. Shohei Ohtani, I mean, it could happen. I just don't think. There's a couple of things that I think will get in Ohtani's way, not the least of which he's still pitching, people.
He's not pitching anymore.
They've shut him down for the year?
Yeah, he's not pitching.
Oh, okay. Well, then he has a shot. Vlad Guerrero has 46. Ohtani has 45. it's not impossible that Ohtani gets back in there, but I mean, 5 home runs in 2 days? That's
2 days.
not impossible. It's tough.
There's 2 guys at 47. I can't. At least they were at 47 Thursday when we talked.
Well, I have a 48 and a 46. So either one of them lost a home run and one of them gained a home run, or
who's at 48 right now?
Well, it's still Perez, the guy that broke Johnny Bench's record. I was talking about.
Okay.
So Perez. I don't hitting 3 home runs is going to be hitting 2 home runs in 2 days is going to be difficult.
It's not impossible, but yeah, it's especially when people are trying not to give up home runs to you, which they may or may not be doing. I can't remember if they're playing teams that are still in contention or not.
True. I would say Perez just because he's the closest. But I don't think so. I don't think there'll be a 50 home run hitter.
I think we get to 49. Like I said before on Thursday show, I think Perez gets to 49, and that's it.
Mike, what grade would you give the officiating so far in the NFL?
I've only watched the Colts game, so that is probably A-. I haven't seen the other games, so I can't really tell you.
Okay. Golden Tate says that Matt Stafford would have been more successful at Green Bay than Aaron Rodgers. Woo. What do you think?
No. Aaron Rodgers added another element that Matthew Stafford doesn't have, and that's running the football. So I would say no. I think Matthew Stafford would be a lot more known and a lot more celebrated and have. I mean, just recently they're just talking about how great of a quarterback he is, and he's been a great quarterback, from day one. So in Green Bay, where they won more and did more things. And if Aaron Rodgers was in Detroit, we'd probably be talking about a whole different story. But both considered, both at the same time, both timelines equally, I have to lean Aaron Rodgers.
What did you think about Kirk Cousins last Sunday? Where the hell did that come from?
Cousins has actually been performing since last year, since about week 10. If you go back and look at his stats from like week 10 of last season, you're going to see a whole different Kirk Cousins that we've seen, since his career started, where he's only supporting one wide receiver for most of it. And week 10 of last year, you could see his numbers just go up, and they've just remained the same. He's just been doing it since last season. So it's not, if you haven't been tracking that unless you're a Minnesota fan, you're probably. My cat's having
apparently somebody disagrees with you, Mike.
Very much so. Okay, Gracie, we understand. Thank you.
Gracie says they should have stuck with Case Keenum.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins has definitely turned his. I don't know why. I don't know if they just opened up the playbook or what it is, but he's definitely been, someone that's shown since week 10 that he's pretty much a solid quarterback.
I think it's this simple. They've managed to keep Dalvin Cook healthy-ish. They have 2
He didn't play last week. Dalvin Cook didn't even play last week.
Here's the word ish, right? Healthy-ish. Meaning that he's healthy enough. And Alexander Madison has always been good. I loved him at Boise State. So there's not a lot of drop-off there. They have a good running game. That's the secret is whenever he's been good, it's been when they've had a good running game and, right, also 2, in my opinion, top 12 wide receivers. Their wide receiver position, their tight end position kind of dropped off a little bit. I guess Kyle Rudolph is getting older and not really finding a replacement yet. But they've got a really good running game and 2 really good wide receivers. I think it's that simple. And he's always been able to put up numbers, right? Stats have never been the issue with Kirk Cousins. The issue has been the big game, right? Winning the big game.
Football games. That's
right. That's always been the issue, not numbers.
Mark, what do you think? Uh, Josh Gordon, he's with the Chiefs now. I mean, come on, this guy has had more opportunities and more chances than anybody that I can think of. Is Josh Gordon really that good?
Well, you would assume so, just based on the fact of, like you mentioned, he's gotten chance after chance after chance to come back in this league. Now he goes to a good offense, but I don't know if he's going to be any good in that offense. He hasn't shown the capability outside, I think, of one season to really do much of anything. So he has more of a nickname than he actually has playing ability.
Now, I told you last week, Mike. I know Demetrius seems to have ducked my wrath, but there were people that told me to start AJ Brown last week,
Ooh.
and I was really adamant that no, I shouldn't do that. But no. The fantasy guru tells me, AJ Brown, make sure you got him in that slot.
Yep, I did.
I got 0 points from AJ Brown.
Well, he pulled a hamstring. Like that's not.
No. You weren't here. You were not here. Stay out of this conversation. You were not here.
Okay, fine. Whatever.
There you go. Now, Mike, Mike, I think that there is an appropriate plate of crow that I've found out here. And the only thing I would like to know, would you like it with the port wine sauce or without?
I'm gonna have to eat this, don't I? I'll go without the sauce.
And there was another guy that we talked about, another receiver, that I was told to make sure that I start. And what did he give me? I think he got me 2 points. Mike, you and Demetrius are way off on my wide receivers last week.
Yeah. Well, to Bill's point, AJ Brown did pull a hammy, so I those are hard to call. But yeah, it doesn't really matter when your sheet reflects a 0. Yeah, it was a brutal week.
Okay. Now, Bill, if you want to come in defense of Mike, it's okay.
I'm not even so much defending Mike. I'm just saying that AJ Brown was going to give you a good solid return if he played. What was it, the second or third or something play of the game he pulls a hamstring? I mean, that's kind of an extenuating circumstance there. I don't hear who was the other receiver. Obviously I wasn't there. What was the other receiver?
Oh yeah, I don't remember who the other receiver was either.
I'm trying to think. I'd have to go back and look down my sheet, but
both wide receivers though got hurt. Julio Jones, not on Bill's team, but not on James' team, but the Tennessee Titans lost both Julio and AJ Brown early, and the Colts couldn't win.
Let's see. I was just going over a couple things, Bill. You were in the Thursday show with us, so a lot of those you got a chance to answer. But I just thought Mike might be interested. Now, this is one that we did not answer in the Thursday meeting, and Mike, I know Bill is going to give us all the very precise statistics, but I'm going to give you a chance to go first. Is Bill Belichick the GOAT of NFL coaches?
Ooh, you'd have to argue hard that he's not, but there have been a lot of great coaches that come through.
Bill Walsh.
Bill Walsh is definitely one of the greatest of all time, and I dislike the 49ers, dislike them immensely. But I have to admit that Bill Walsh is definitely one of the greatest of all time. I mean, we still use the West Coast offense in his variants today. Lombardi and his offense is genuine geniuses, and it just Tom Landry. I mean, the list can go on and on. I think it's definitely, if you look at the Super Bowls, definitely Bill Belichick is there. But yeah, I'd have to say no.
All right, Bill. We tossed a couple names out there. Belichick. Landry, Parcells. I would even maybe put in there Bill Walsh. But come on, Bill. You bring it down. Break it down for us. Is he
Okay,
the GOAT
sure.
or not?
Sure. So once again, it comes down to what thing do you respect, right? Don Shula had a 677 winning percentage and won 328 games, right? In 33 years, he had 2 losing seasons. 2 losing seasons in 33 years. Managed to take a team so built around the run that they won a Super Bowl game where they had 7 pass attempts, and then turned around and managed to at least make it to a Super Bowl with Dan Marino throwing the ball by that era's standards all over every place. So he showed flexibility, right? He'd been a very sort of Martinet disciplinarian, early in his career, came from the Paul Brown, yet another Paul Brown coaching tree guy, kind of a hard butt, I guess, early in his career. And then Johnny Unitas kind of pushed back. And then finally, when he gets to Marino, he loosened the reins a little bit. I think that some of the things that he did and how he did them for so long, to stay at the top or near the top as long as he did, is insane. People forget about George Halas for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because they're too young to realize how the greatness that was Halas. He has a 682 winning percentage and 318 wins as a coach.
Yep.
Player coach and later a coach, and then coach/owner, right? People think about Al Davis as sort of the guy that kind of did both. George Halas was doing it when Al Davis was still, getting penny candy out of the Schlotsky's Deli or whatever on Pearl Street in Brooklyn. Once again, we're talking about a guy who did this over a 5-decade practically period from 1920 to 1967. Right? Think about that.
And then he took the Redskins team that was a bunch of just scrubs off of other teams and took them to the Super Bowl against the Dolphins.
When I think about what George Halas did, right? Not only was
the right guy. That's George Halas, right?
No, you're talking about George Allen. But George Allen was really good too. But George Halas, 6 NFL championships, right? Spread across 40 plus years, right? 47 years. First coach to 200 wins, first coach to 300 wins, and 6 losing seasons. And they were all 3 of them are right at the end of his time in Chicago when the Bears, they didn't keep up, frankly, with what was going on in modern football. And it showed. But that sustained level of greatness for as long as it was is insanity. Belichick checks in at a 673 winning percentage, and obviously all the rings that we talked about. He has a chance to be at the top. I think he's in the top 2 or 3, but is he all the way at the top yet? He's in the fight. I'm not ready to put him all the way at the top, but I'm ready to put him, in the fight. And I can't leave out, you talked about Bill Walsh, but I can't leave out his mentor/frenemy, Paul Brown, right? So depending on whether you count his wins in the AAFC, which, since they came right into the NFL and dominated, I think those things hold up. But we're talking about, there was a run of about 7 years where nobody could beat the Browns, right? They film study Paul Brown, the modern approach to timed pattern passing, where it's tied with a pattern that's run by the receiver, it's tied to a 3-5-7 step drop. Who's that come from? Paul Brown, right? The 40-yard dash, where's that come from? Paul Brown. A 672 winning percentage, right, which is still in the top 3 or 4 in the history of football. Who invented the face mask? Paul Brown, right? Who was the first to have full-time professional assistant coaches on his staff? Paul Brown, right? The game as we now know it doesn't exist without Paul Brown. And his winning percentage would be even higher if he just stayed retired at the end of his run with the Browns. But pride and anger made him want to start the Bengals, and they did not have a lot of success, quite frankly. So that dragged down his winning percentage. He would be down close to 70%, people. I think he might have been right at around 70% when his career ended with the Browns. And only because the Bengals, which he founded in 1968, or started playing in 68, that 7-year run until he hung it up for good in 75, they were below 500. So that dragged his numbers down a little bit. He would have been the highest in the history of football in winning percentage if not for that. I have to put Paul Brown in the fight as well.
I think if you're looking at coaches that are innovative, like Paul Brown, like you mentioned, I didn't know half of those things, but I knew the 40 and I knew the face mask, but other than that, I didn't know. But just on my point about being innovative, Bill Walsh, Paul Brown, Bill Walsh has those champions, but what was he innovative in? What did he innovate? And
the West Coast offense that you talked about is based on stuff that Bill Walsh learned from Paul Brown.
Exactly. So Paul Brown passes that on to Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh develops it and is now used throughout the league. So you have to have Paul Brown. You have to have Bill Walsh. And those are innovators. I don't know that Belichick's innovated anything. He's had
on the defensive side of the ball, yes, he's done some
very true with the Giants and those kind of things, absolutely. But as a head coach, I don't know.
I mean, he's still innovating things on defense. That radar front that everybody uses now, that comes from Belichick.
Well, there you go. I guess he could fit in the top 5 defensive coordinators.
All right, guys. Okay. Let's get into the stardom sit-em here. And I promise I'm not going to hold last week against you.
This is a long list. This is a long list. I don't know if I can eat that much crow.
Since I was going to make it a little bit longer, but, since Demetrius wasn't here, I kind of cut out a few. But anyway, so let's start with the Cowboys. Do we start Zeke Elliott against that Panthers defense?
Yeah, no, that Panthers defense is definitely a tough unit, but Zeke looked really good last week, Monday Night Football against the Eagles, but those are the Eagles, so you should look good. But the way he cut, the way he, went from A to B through the hole, he looked like he had a lot more confidence, more speed than he had in the first couple weeks. So I like Zeke. You're going to start him anyways, just because where you drafted him. You're going to play him. So it's probably going to be a tougher battle than it was last week against the Eagles. But yeah, you definitely start him.
Do you start him at RB1, 2, or do you put him in a flex spot?
I think he'll finish probably around RB 12, 13-ish. So he will be an RB2 by the end of the day. I don't think he'll fall into the flex spot area.
Then Bill, what about his running mate, Tony Pollard? If you weren't happy enough to get Zeke, and you pick up Pollard, could you put Pollard in a flex spot?
I mean, some people have both, right? Some people that they always handcuff like that.
Yeah.
So if you're one of those people that did both, you're probably tossing Pollard in the flex. And depending on what you've got in terms of your other running back, you probably have Zeke at RB2. If your RB situation is, I'm in a lot of deep leagues, like 20-team and 16-team leagues. So if you're in deep leagues like the ones I often play in, then there's a good chance that Tony Pollard your RB2, or in some of the leagues I play in, your RB1. So yeah, one year I decided to really push myself, and I was in a 30-team league. I do not recommend. So yeah, it all depends on what you're doing and what's available. I mean, I remember one time I picked up James Robinson in one of these, RB starved leagues and rode him to a championship, right? Because people didn't know what James Robinson was a couple of years ago. And some people are forgetting what James Robinson is already. Like, what's wrong with you people? This guy's talent didn't go anyplace. If you were one of those people that at the end of your draft and James Robinson was still there and you didn't draft him, shame on you.
Yep.
What's your thoughts on Tony Pollard, Mike?
I think he's a very good running back. I think he's going to take over the role next season. But as long as Ezekiel Elliott's there, and as long as Ezekiel Elliott is doing well, we won't see Tony Pollard very much at all. So it's one of those situations where he could be good in the flex for you, but I wouldn't start him in any unless you're like with Bill with his deep leagues and stuff like that. Then you're going to want to start Pollard, but outside of that in a normal league, nah, you're just gonna ignore him, put him on your bench, leave him there.
Yeah. Miles Sanders, Eagles running back against the Chiefs. Mike.
I like, Sanders is someone that is getting kind of replaced by Kenneth Gainwell right now. If the Eagles are not performing well, they kind of just ignore him, and I could see this being a blowout by the Chiefs. So if you do have Miles Sanders, you're going to want to place him probably in your flex. I could see him finishing outside the top 24 this week. So he's more of a flex option for me.
It started or sit him, so you don't have to put him. You can put him on the bench if you want.
Sure. And I hear you. I still think you play him. I just don't think he's going to perform where he's going to be. I'm more projecting where he's going to finish as a running back. So I'd like RB26, which would be outside the first two RBs, but you still play him. Whether it's RB2 or flex, you're going to put him in your lineup.
What do you think, Bill?
I'm going to counter program a little bit. And once again, I don't have any insider information, but don't be surprised if both in the running game and in the passing game, both of the Eagles running backs see a lot more work than people are projecting. I just have a feeling, because call it a feeling. Part of it is Nick Sirianni's background, right? If you look at places where he's worked before in the past, there were often places where running backs, even running backs that weren't known as receiving backs, got the ball in their hands in the receiving game. I would be screening a lot. One, because it's one of the way Kansas City's defense gets upfield. They like to run. And you can hurt them in the screen game, quite frankly, which is odd because Andy Reid's teams are usually good. His offenses are usually good in the screen game. You'd think in practice they'd be like, oh, we shouldn't fall for that. But yet they still do?
Yep.
Whatever. If it were me, and once again, I'm not, I don't have the ear of the coaching staff in Philadelphia, but you would see probably 4 screens per quarter if it were up to me. That means 16 screen calls, right? For two reasons. One is it takes a lot of the load off of your quarterback to read anything. It also takes the load off your offensive line to hold up in protection. You get to invite, right, the line to rush, and they like to. They like to get upfield. They like to pin their ears back. Third and long screen. Second and long screen. First down screen. I would throw a lot of first down screens because a lot of teams don't expect them. So I think both of their running backs, once again, depending on what else is available, what else you have, and I play in a lot of deep leagues, so my thinking is different than a normal person. If you're playing in 10 and 12 12-team leagues, and you're different than I am. I play in deep leagues. And I play a lot of teams.
But the question is starting or sitting.
And you're asking about Sanders? I'm not starting it. He's not RB1 unless, once again, it's one of those stupid deep leagues I play in. But he's definitely playing either flex or RB2.
Yeah, and then the Chiefs, and not only was Bill was saying about they're vulnerable to the dump offs, but just their defensive front against the run is not very good either.
Not great. So, yep.
Miles Sanders does have that home run capability, so I can see him busting one, like a 60, 70-yard touchdown against them.
Now, this next question, it was kind of puzzling because Buffalo is a 17.5-point favorite in this game. So, and I look back at,
a lot of points.
I look back at weeks 1 and 2. And Singletary carried the majority of the load. Last week, it was Zach Moss. So,
right.
Mike, do I start Zach Moss against the Texans? I mean, 17.5 points. I mean, I should be able to get, what, 13, 14, maybe 20 points from both.
Moss is an interesting story.
You're going out, Mike. You're going in and out.
I hear what you're saying, and he should.
Okay.
I'm going to go out just because you should have other players that you picked in front of Zach Moss and until by.
Yep.
Well, if you picked one ahead of him, it might be Singletary. So, yeah. So,
and that's very true. It very well could be Singletary's week. That's the problem with the Bills. One of the problems with the Bills is we don't know.
It can also be a game where neither of them does anything, and Josh Allen rushes 8 times for 65 yards.
Yeah. Speaking of that handcuff principle, Bill,
and 4 touchdowns. Right.
I don't trust their running backs. Period. I avoid their running backs. Period. It's almost like with the New England Patriots. Like eventually, I got the message. Oh, you guys don't want me to use your running backs in fantasy. I get it now.
Right. Exactly.
So there's teams that essentially are just trying to tell you, oh no, you don't want to do this. Like all that waits for you here is pain and disappointment. So I if someone tells you who they are, listen to them.
Yep.
That's what I tell you. I avoid them altogether. I avoid their running backs entirely.
I agree.
The Broncos, Melvin Gordon III against the Ravens. Mike.
Yeah, I like Melvin Gordon, especially in the flex. I got him in a lot of leagues, and I use him in the flex. So even if you don't have, you're still starting him. He's absolutely a start.
Yep.
That's it, Bill. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, especially I have him in a couple of leagues, and he's over-delivered. I mean, if you look at the little projection thing they say, I think in all but 1 week, he's outperformed expectations. So, yes. I mean, once again, I play in a lot of deep leagues. He's been RB2 for me at times, but if in some of my closer to normal leagues, he's been a flex.
Yeah. Usually that's where I have him also. Here's another kind of perplexing guy. I had him when he was in New England as a fantasy player, and he was very, very disappointing. Now, as a Falcon, he's been a little better, but fortunately, I bypassed him. But Mike, Cordell Patterson versus that Washington football team that has to be coming off. They have to be that defense has to be very angry.
I like how you wrote WTF. Because that's basically what it's coming down to.
Oh, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot action.
Yeah, it's very true. I think Cordell Patterson is definitely a flex worthy option for you. Don't expect many yards out of this guy, but as on the ground, but expect a lot of catches. He's every week he's been someone that is in the top 25 of wide receivers just because he catches so many passes. So if you have Patterson, he makes an excellent flex option.
Bill?
I mean, once again, I play in stupidly deep leagues. At times he's been RB2 for me. But yes, definitely a flex option. When you add to the fact, I mean, I'm talking about a 226-pound man who runs sub 4.4. He's a freak. He's a physical freak. And because he's been played sparingly in a bunch of different positions throughout his career, he hasn't taken really a lot of hits. And when he does, I mean, like the few times when he's been used more, when he's had 14, 15, 16 touches, he's come through. Like he doesn't shrink when he does get a chance to do more. He shows up. I think look at what Tony Pollard is, and basically he's an older, a little less polished version of that guy. He's kind of Tony Pollard. Physically, they're almost exactly the same person. He's just older.
And he also is used in kick return, so he knows how to weave in and out of traffic, and that's one of the other reasons why he gets a lot of yards after the catch is because he understands how to set up defenses at multiple tiers and knows how to use his body and understands where players are going to be and where they're not going to be. So you can absolutely use him.
Dalton Schultz, tight end, Cowboys. Starting him against the Panthers.
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, the answer is I am in one of my, once again, stupidly deep leagues starting him tight end. I would prefer not to. I'm right now working on a deal. I'll let you know how it turns out. But I am working on shoring up the tight end position, which, as Mike will probably tell you, once you get beyond a handful of truly elite tight ends, it's kind of a dice throw. You know, unless you've got Waller, unless you've got Kelsey and Kittle. I mean, Kittle obviously healthy is, you know, but this year he's been more of a decoy blocker. So people who drafted Kelsey early are probably cursing fate. He'll burst out at some point. It's okay, Kelsey owners. Don't freak out. Don't sell low. You'll be mad later on when he starts to put up, 16, 17-point games. Yes, I've ended up having – I don't like it. I'm not going to pretend I like starting Dalton Schultz because I don't. I don't feel great about it. But have I done it? I'm doing it. I mean, I'm literally looking at my lineup right now. There's Dalton Schultz staring me full in the face. So it's a deep league. And just because the offense is so prolific, there's a good chance he'll catch like a stray touchdown here or there. But if you have better options, then no. If you have better options, but there's a good chance you don't have a better option. If you're looking at Dawson Knox as your other option or something like that, or Hunter Henry, then yeah, start Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Bill. It's just when Dalton Schultz is a blob guy, what we call blob guys that are one and the same among 15 different tight ends. So you have 15 different tight ends all grouped up that are all going to perform the same way, and he's one of those guys. But if you have Dalton Schultz and you're looking at, as Bill mentioned, Hunter Henry or whoever, why not throw him out there? You never know. It's a possibility, but don't expect much.
Yeah, what Mark called the blob guys, or whatever. I'm looking at them. Which one is in the offense that does the most, right? I have Logan Thomas in a league, right? Do I love starting Logan Thomas? I sure as heck do not. Once again, I'm working on trying to make a trade to improve the position. But he's a big target. He's a good athlete, right? So if I'm looking at Dalton Schultz or Logan Thomas, Dallas's offense does more stuff, right? It's a more dynamic offense. Just based on that, I'm probably going to pull the trigger on starting Schultz. But I'll ask you, I actually do have this scenario. I actually have both Dalton Schultz and Logan Thomas. It's a deep league, as I said. And I'm trying to make a trade. But, I mean, I'm assuming Dalton Schultz. But you tell me, am I wrong if I'm starting him over Logan Thomas?
I would say you are.
Okay.
Just because I like – if Ryan Fitzpatrick was the quarterback, I would be like, yeah, go with Dalton Schultz. But because Taylor Heineke is that sort of pop gun arm, and he likes to target Logan Thomas, both the touchdowns Thomas has scored this year have come from Taylor Heineke. So I think you'll get the targets. Logan Thomas should get the targets, where Dalton Schultz is like, he may not. But I think, yeah, I'd go with Logan Thomas this week.
Okay, cool. Well, that helps me.
Speaking of, tight ends that used to be, dominant, now we're not so sure. What about the Ravens? Mark Andrews starting him against the Broncos, Mike.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that Bill was talking about, where if you have those top 5 guys, then you're going to start automatically. And Mark Andrews is one of those top 5 guys. So, yeah, you roll with him, and, you don't think twice about it.
He ain't been putting up top 5 numbers, Bill.
Well, so here's these classic sort of good news, bad news. The good news is that Lamar is stretching the ball down the field more, throwing the ball more to his wide receivers. If you happen to own Lamar, that's a good thing. The bad thing is if you also have Mark Andrews, is that he's no longer treating him as his first option almost every. There was a point a couple of years ago where I think Mark Andrews had something like 68% of the targets or some crazy number one year. Am I right on that, Mark? Right? Okay,
you're pretty much right on it, because he's the kind of guy that doesn't play doesn't have a lot of snaps under his belt, but he gets a lot of those targets. So I don't know if the number is like exact.
It was a stupid lineup.
It is like one of those where, yeah, that sounds believable.
It was eye-popping. I remember thinking, what? Now, they had a lower volume passing offense. So despite getting all those targets, he wasn't putting up numbers like, say, Kelsey or Kittle a couple of years ago. But their passing game was rather remind you, they didn't have a sink. They still have now this year it'll probably change. They have not yet had a 1,000-yard receiver since Lamar has been the starting quarterback with the Ravens. I don't know how people knew that. The record is Andrews at 860 something, 870 something, whatever. That's the most anybody has had as a receiver in the Ravens passing off. Now, I think this year that'll change. So since we've got you here, Mr. Valverde, my flex in one of my deep leagues has been since the beginning of the season either T. Higgins or Chase Claypool. Now both of them are out. I do not like.
Too? You sure?
Yeah. Higgins got hurt and Claypool's been declared out.
Oh wow. Okay. All right.
Oh, well, I guess I'm breaking news for you
situation.
I guess I'm breaking news for you there. So my other options are, Gabriel Davis, Jamison Crowder coming off injury, Terrace Marshall, Nelson Aguilar. I guess Cole Beasley or Tim Patrick are probably where I'm leaning. And then I've got Robert Tonyan. Or I guess here's the tight ends I have. Jared Cook, Robert Tonyan, and the aforementioned Mr. Dalton Schultz. Who I guess I have in 2 leagues. God help me.
You got to roll with Cole Beasley here.
I guess I'm rolling with Beasley, but yeah, what do you say, Mr. Valverde?
I would definitely think either Cole Beasley or Tim Patrick.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best option. They're pretty much one and the same, so whatever one you feel most comfortable with is going to be your guy.
I mean, not really either of them, really, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah. See, with Patrick, he probably has a much more of a chance to score a touchdown, but he's going to catch like 3 for, 45. So you have like
he's the more volatile of the 2 options. That's what bothers me about him.
Right. And if he doesn't score a touchdown, then he's going to. So you're looking at 7 to 13 points, where Beasley's probably going to get you 10 points. He's not going to score a touchdown. So it's like, do you go upside or do you secure your floor? If you have in your lineup boom and bust players, then you're going to want to secure your floor. I go Beasley. If you have more players that are like floor kind of players that catch a lot of passes but not a lot of touchdowns, then you're going to want to boost players.
So this is one of my stupidly deep leagues. So this is nauseating, but luckily I do have Tom Brady. But after that, it gets ugly. I've got Ty Johnson. Yes, I know. Jeremy McNichols. God help me. Amari Cooper. Sorry. Either Jared Cook or one of the other tight ends I mentioned. Now Cole Beasley in the flex. I have the Broncos defense, Nick Folk, and then just a collection of, random players, really. I have the lovely and talented Zach Pascal, or Pascal, if you want to really pronounce it correctly. I've got Tim Patrick, we just mentioned. My backup quarterback's Teddy Bridgewater. It's a keeper league, so Teddy's a keeper. So when Tom Brady, if he retires, at least I'm not stuck. Got James White, who's hurt. Elijah Moore hurt. Nelson Aguilar, Gabriel Davis. Oh God, the aforementioned Robert Tonyan, KJ Hamler's on IR. Mm-hmm. Hunter Long, since it's a keeper league, someday I think he'll be something. Terrace Marshall, I think, will be good in the future, and like as Elijah Moore, I think will be good in the future. So I'm holding on to some of those guys as just keepers, so they're giving me basically nothing this year. Oh man. So this is one of those leagues where if you get 80 points, you're like, woo, But yeah, it really teaches you a lot when you play in like deep keeper leagues. You have to sort of balance what trying to win now, just like a real football team, right? Trying to win now with developing rookies, right?
Right. I would move some of those wide receivers, like maybe a Tim Patrick, depending on how knowledgeable your league mates are.
Right. In a trade.
I would.
He's one of the people I've targeted to try to improve my tight end position. And if I can get back a decent tight end for maybe him and a draft pick, since it's like I said, a keeper league where you also are allowed to trade draft picks.
Because you're stocked at wide receiver.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
I
I'm
wouldn't care
very good at wide receiver. Yes,
Yeah,
and I'm good at evaluating wide receivers in the draft. I draft well at wide receiver. I guess it's all those years of being a Steelers fan. But yeah, I do a good job of spotting guys that are going to be something one day at wide receiver. Oh, God help me, though. But yeah, at running back and tight end, it's just a wasteland. So I'm going to see. But people never want to give up running backs in this darn league. It is so hard to get running backs in this league. Tight ends, though, people are a little more willing to part with. So I think I might be able to upgrade my tight end position.
Let's see. Wide receiver 2, possibly flex. Your thoughts on Robbie Anderson versus the Cowboys, Mike?
Yeah, Robbie Anderson has been a goose egg outside of like week 1, which was only a catch for like 58 yards and a touchdown altogether in one package. Outside of that, he's really not done anything. I would ignore Robbie Anderson until he actually starts to show something on the field.
And this time, Gracie agrees.
That was definitely an agreement.
Okay, let's see here. Kirk Cousins versus the Browns.
Yeah, you roll Kirk Cousins unless you have, a Kyler Murray or a Patrick Mahomes. But anything out of like the top 5 quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins is your guy.
So you're saying Kirk Cousins is a number 6?
I would say he's pretty close to a 6 or a 7. Let's see where he is at right now in the season. Kirk Cousins is a 10. So not as high as I thought, but he's definitely one of those guys that you feel good about.
You feel good about Kirk Cousins versus that Browns defense, Bill?
The only thing that concerns me is Kirk Cousins is a very different animal when he's getting pressured. Will they get the ball out of his hands quickly? And he is capable of getting the ball. I mean, he has a quick release himself. If the defense is in a declared coverage, he does a really good job of finding the hot and the quick reads, the things like that. But if you can make him hold the ball a little bit against that defense, he's going to get knocked around, and then that other Kirk Cousins emerges, right? The guy that we remember, frustrating the daylights out of us. But I think they will be smart about it. I think they're going to really try to establish the run, first of all, right? They're going to really try. Even if you aren't getting a lot done, it takes hits off your quarterback. It slows down the pass rush. And you're hoping it'll get you into some 3rd and shorts and maybe even 4th and shorts. To me, this is the kind of game where you go for it on 4th and short, right? You're trying to keep away a little bit from their offense because the Vikings defense can be had, I think is the term I'm looking for. Yeah. And this is, ironic because Mike Zimmer was known as a defensive guru going back 20-something plus years when he was back on Jimmy Johnson's staff, originally as a defensive, a secondary coach and then eventually as a coordinator. Once again, I don't know what your other options are, but most teams, if you only carry one quarterback, and that's your quarterback, of course you're starting him. You only have one quarterback. If you're carrying 2, then who's the other quarterback? It would be my question. And if that guy has a really favorable matchup, even if he's not a better quarterback, if he has a great matchup, you might consider the other guy. But if you're only carrying one quarterback, then what else are you going to do? Start your quarterback.
Yeah, that's true. I am kind of curious about the Browns defense. They looked great against the Bears last week, but that's just because, as you were talking about holding the ball onto, Justin Fields was just like, I don't know where I'm going to go with this.
He doesn't know where he's going with the right. Like many rookie quarterbacks, he has no idea where he's supposed to be going with the ball. Yes.
Yeah. And so the Browns showed up last week, but the previous weeks before that, they've just looked gross. So I don't know what Browns defense is going to show up, but they definitely have the talent to be. They should not be this bad with all that talent. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. My projection or whatever is somewhere between the two, right? They're not going to put up another 21 or whatever the stat line was. That's not coming. They're probably not going to get 9 sacks and a pick 6 or whatever, or in a couple of interceptions and 9 sacks. That's not coming. But I think they will still. I think they're not going to look bad. They're going to look somewhere between the two. So yeah, I'm thinking like 7.5, 8.5 points probably out of them as a defense.
That makes sense.
All right, let's see. I got pure rookie Justin Fields starting once again this week, and then I have Mr. Bad Pecs. 60 throws, 58 throws last week. So between Justin Fields and Bad Pecs, do I start any Bears wide receivers or Steelers wide receivers, Mike?
You could. Well, I didn't know Claypool was out. I know Deontay Johnson.
Claypool is out.
Definitely. I know Deontay Johnson's back, and Juju Smith-Schuster, he's playing, I believe, right?
He's still playing, yes, he is.
So you could trust those guys with Mr. Bad Pecs. But outside of that, well, you wouldn't trust anybody anyways. But so yeah, I could. Deontay Johnson and Juju is good.
So while we've got you here, so I'm setting my lineup for my dynasty league anyway. So what the heck? So I'm carrying 3 quarterbacks currently. It's dynasty. I have a very large roster. It's a dynasty league. I've got Teddy, I've got Darnold, I've got Goff. I'm leaning Darnold, but I'm not certain. As always, running backs a struggle. My choices are between Peyton Barber, so I'm leaning Harris and Barber. My other choices at running back are Travis Homer, no. Khalil Herbert, no. And those are young. For Herbert, he's a rookie. I'm just carrying him for the future.
Right.
Lindsey, no. So it's probably Peyton Barber and Damian Harris at running back.
Yikes.
Beasley, and then what I call Spanish Cole Beasley, Braxton Berrios, are amongst my choices, as well as Gabriel Davis, Simi Fehoko, who is once again a rookie.
Rookie.
I think I'm going to get big things out of him in the future. Tyler Johnson, another guy I'm looking for things in the future. Christian Kirk. I might be getting rid of Scotty Miller either via trade or maybe just flat out drop. Donovan Peoples-Jones, Emmanuel Sanders, and of course Scambling just went on
IR,
right? So he's going on IR for me too. Terrell Williams, I think, is out. Yeah, he's out also.
He's out. Yeah.
And then the guy who's been helping me, Robert Woods. Thank you, Robert Woods. God bless you. And then my tight ends are either Ferkser or Jaceki, and it's usually been Jaceki unless otherwise notified. And my defense is the Chargers defense. What I'm a little worried about, but I think they'll hold up okay. So is Darnold the best choice between Goff, Darnold, and Bridgewater?
Yeah, I would say so. I like Darnold against that Cowboys defense.
Okay. And I'm not assuming I'm doing the right thing, but I'll confirm that. So Peyton Barber and Damian Harris are probably better. Herbert's a rookie, though he's looked good in the return game. He had a nice punt return, but he's not doing anything really in the run game yet. Travis Homer is Travis Homer. And then Philip Lindsay, I keep thinking if he gets a chance, we'll actually do something, but he's not really getting a chance. And then wide receiver is where I'm probably looking for the most guidance. Robert Woods is a must start, especially in a league this deep. Beasley is a usual start. Then I'm trying to figure out between Gabriel Davis. Here's what I'm trying to decide between. Spanish Cole Beasley, Kendrick Byrne, Gabriel Davis. Fajardo's not doing anything yet. Tyler Johnson's nothing. Christian Kirk, or Emmanuel Sanders is really the other choices. I'm deciding between Kirk, Sanders, Bourne, and Berrios, and maybe even Peoples-Jones, I guess, kind of, sort of. But he hasn't done enough yet.
There among all those.
So who's the move you said?
Kirk.
It is Christian Kirk. Okay, good. Yeah. So I'm rolling with Beasley, Christian Kirk, Robert Woods, and then I guess I'm forced to start one other one because I can't start my other running. I guess Emmanuel Sanders? Question mark. So between Gabriel Davis, I have to start one other Buffalo Bills wide receiver just because of the weakness of the position. So is Sanders a better choice than Gabriel Davis?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Well, that
You're
is set my lineup.
You're welcome.
Okay, guys, let's see. Yeah. You didn't mention any Bears wide receivers. But,
Except
I mean,
condolences.
well, hey, you mentioned two Steelers wide receivers, and the only Steeler I even have on my roster is Najee Harris. So I mean, but anyway, that's.
Yeah, I mean, Allen Robinson is a great talent, but who's throwing him the ball?
It's the story of his whole career, isn't it? We've always said,
Yep.
man, Allen Robinson's a great talent, but ...
Yep.
Well,
Who's the
hey,
quarterback?
but Justin Fields can at least throw the ball further down the field.
I don't even know if
Well,
Justin Fields
I mean,
can figure it out
theoretically,
to throw the ball
but-
down the field.
Well,
I mean,
we'll see. Like, hey, I'm hard on my Steelers, so that's probably a little of me there. But now, looking last week, and this was purely by accident because usually I'll take a different kicker every week. Sometimes a different defense, depending upon the matchup. But last week, I got 16 points off of Justin Tucker, man.
Woo!
So I mean, for a kicker, and believe me, I needed at least 10 of those points. So is it time to reevaluate the value of kickers in fantasy football?
That's one of the things that I never understood is why kickers get such a bad rap. I mean, tight ends are.
I have a fantasy Super Bowl because of Young Hova, baby. Young Ho. Where are you, Young Wei Koo? Thank you. I rode him to because people don't know what they're doing at the position, but I do. I spotted him.
Well, not only that, but usually, and it used to almost be, blasphemy to not pick a kicker before the last round.
Right.
When fans,
But you still should pick him towards the last round, but be careful about. I mean, I don't think it's a throwaway pick.
Well, come on now. If you wait till the last round, at least the top 5 kickers are not going to be there, if not the top 10.
True.
That does not work anymore. That strategy does not work anymore.
Right. Because everybody's doing what I've been doing for years is go back 2 rounds from the last round and draft your tight end and your kicker, or not your tight end, but your defense and your kicker. And then the last 2 rounds, you draft players that are available. So people have figured that out, and now are starting to do that a lot more.
So how do you evaluate the kicker position? Do you take a Kansas City kicker in round 9? Do you take a Justin Tucker in round 11? How do you evaluate that position? Especially according to whether you're playing PPR or Standard League or Dynasty or your format.
I don't really care about my kicker in Dynasty League just because there's so much of a rotation involved, unless you're one of the best, like a Justin Tucker or Harrison Butker or those kind of guys, Daniel Carlson, Robbie Gould. Those guys have been around. So, I don't really care about kickers in my Dynasty League. As far as evaluating them, pretty much you want to look at teams that struggle at the goal line. So you'll get a list of teams that have gotten are good getting to the red zone and how many opportunities they've been in the red zone and how often they failed. So if you're looking at a team that fails but gets into the red zone, then that's where your kicker is going to be. So that's kind of how I do it. I just look at, okay, these are the teams that have great number of red zone opportunities, and these are the teams that fail, and those Colts are notoriously bad against in the red zone. So I have
and Jacoby Brissett just helps you even more. Grab Rodrigo Blankenship while you can.
Exactly. So I grab Blankenship with like one of the last picks of the draft, just because Colts struggle in the goal line. And so, but they have a good enough offense to move into that area. So that's how I assess it.
Okay. All right.
So more lineup setting. And yet I play in a lot of leagues. So I did manage to get Alexander Madison. Yay.
Cool.
So I've got Darnold, Madison, the aforementioned Miles Sanders, Devontae Adams, Terry McLaurin, TJ Hawkinson, the Titans defense, and Justin Tucker. So yeah, not too shabby there.
That's a solid team. Outside of Titans defense.
Yeah, I know, but it's I'll have to go back and see if there's anything better available on the.
Yeah, that's the problem with defenses. There's probably not much available.
I'll look, but yeah, I don't remember being impressed the last time I checked. And then
I think the Titans have a good matchup this week as far as defense.
They're stacking up against the Jets, so that's why.
I'm that's a good one. Yeah.
So I'm rolling with them. Yeah. I'll be checking for something else, as soon as this week is over. I've got Saquon on the bench, which feels weird. So maybe you can talk me out of it. I don't know.
Who's your running backs?
Well, it's Madison and Sanders. So I guess I should probably start Saquon over one of them, right?
I would for sure. I don't know if is Cook out. Has he been rolled out?
I have to go back and check to see if he's been.
I'm pretty sure Cook is ruled out for the.
I'll double check, but I thought he was too. Yeah.
Yeah, if he's been ruled out, then I'd keep Madison and then put Saquon over. I forgot. I think you said Sanders.
Over Miles Sanders. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm doing it as we speak. Then I've got who else have I got? Well, Darrell Henderson's on my bench because he's hurt. I've got Zach Moss, who I don't quite trust. As I mentioned before, I have him. I don't trust him, but I have him. Let's see, Zach Pascal. Oh, here's my coup. Like my last pick. I don't know why this was allowed to happen. Was Michael Thomas? Now, admittedly, I just got to sit on him for a few more weeks, but these fools let me have Michael Thomas. And at some point, I'm going to unleash him on them. But I just got to survive until that happens.
Right, exactly. He fell in way too many drafts, way too far. Just because owners or managers or whatever how you want to phrase it, are very much recency bias. And so if a guy gets hurt and they're out for 5 or 6 weeks, they just forget about him. They just
or in this case suspended, but yeah,
or suspended and whatever the situation, and you're just like, okay, thank you, I'll take it now. And
that's exactly. I remember thinking, is this happening? Like I almost went to like, okay, I'll take it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure, and be happy with it. Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of our lineups, I told you I had Justin Tucker last week. Well, I still have him. And in this particular, my starting lineup, I have Jalen Hurts, Aaron Jones, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Cooper Kupp, George Kittle. The Saints are my defense, and of course, Justin Tucker is my kicker. I only carry one kicker and one defense. But my bench, I have Deontay Johnson, of course, Odell Beckham, Michael Thomas as my backup wide receivers. My running backs, I have Himes, Elijah Michael, and Cordell Patterson. So, any changes I should make on there, other than maybe if I was going to pick up a defense, but the Saints are playing against the Giants, so I'm not really sure whether I'm going to find more points somewhere else. But your thoughts on that lineup?
I like it. I know you also have some good bench players, like Deontay Johnson, but he's coming off an injury. Elijah Mitchell, I don't know if he's even what he's gonna do. He's coming off an injury as well. So I think what you have is pretty good. I know you said run me your wide receivers again?
My wide receivers are, let me get on to that team. My wide receivers: DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Cooper Kupp.
Okay.
My bench wide receivers: Deontay, Odell Beckham, and Michael Thomas, of course, who I can't play because he's out.
Right. No, I keep that. I keep what you have.
And my other team, it's 3-0, is let's see. Let me grab them up here right quick. Okay. My starting quarterback is Lamar Jackson. My running back is Aaron Jones and Cordell Patterson. Then I have Stephon Diggs and DJ Moore. My tight end is Tyler Higbee. In my flex, I moved Hunter Renfro. I have the Bills defense, and I have Brandon McManus as my kicker. Now, here's kind of my conundrum. I have Lamar Jackson or Aaron Rodgers to start as quarterback. My running backs, I have Tony Pollard, J.D. McKissick, and Hines. As I said, right now I've got Aaron Jones and Cordell starting, but I could also, throw one of those in my flex. My wide receiver bench, I have Henry Ruggs, and let's see, Tyrell is out, and so is Jared Judy. So Hunter Renfro, Stephon Diggs, DJ Moore. Those are the three that I'm rolling with.
And you had Renfro in your flex, correct?
Right.
Naheem Hines sounds like a good flex option over Renfro. I think I would probably go. What are the Raiders playing? Yeah, I would go Naheem. That's such a tight one. Such a whatever. It's really tight between Hines and Renfro. I think Hines is going to be used quite a bit in this game. They're going to be running quite a bit. Such a tough one.
Lamar or Aaron Rodgers?
Who are the Packers playing?
The Packers are playing the Steelers, and they're playing at home.
How good are the Steelers? The Steelers defense, I know, is good. Their defensive.
I could start for the secondary.
Well, I mean, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but that is the weak part of the defense. Yes, the front seven's really good.
Yeah, I think I have to go Lamar just because I don't like him in this game against the Broncos defense. That Broncos defense is really solid. I'll go Rodgers. I'll go Rodgers in this game. It's a risk. It's a risk. But I'll go Rodgers.
Well, here's the thing. According to ESPN numbers and projections, Lamar Jackson is projected at 19.1, and Aaron Rodgers is projected at 19.1.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So, any more fantasy questions you got? What about some sleepers there, Mike?
I mean, I always think that Hunter Renfro is a sleeper, for you guys. Just because
I just started him. What do you mean a sleeper? He's not sleeping in my league.
Let's see. Sleepers, wide receiver. I did a whole article on flex plays. So let me bring that up. That'll help. Let's see. That might take me a second to locate.
We got time. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here are my sleepers for no. Okay, sorry. So here are my sleepers for week 4. Naheem Hines, as I was mentioning, Leonard Fournette, J.D. McKissick, and Michael Carter at running backs. And for wide receivers, Jalen Waddle, Cole Beasley, Michael Pittman, and Jacoby Myers.
Okay. I have a flex question. So my choices for flex are either Jalen Reagor, Brandon Ayuk, David Johnson, Deontay Harris, Spanish Cole Beasley, Deshaun Jackson, or Dalton Schultz. Are all guys I could conceivably throw into the flex.
So I don't know if Jamison Crowder is playing. If he is playing, then Spanish Cole Beasley is not a factor.
Okay.
And then
Crowder is supposed to be back today, according.
Yeah, Crowder. I have Crowder in one of my leagues, so yeah, Crowder is it says questionable or whatever, but I think he's going to play.
He's going to play. Yeah, then forget about Spanish Cole Beasley. Who are the first two guys?
So my other choices. So I have choice. I'm choosing between Jalen Reagor, Brandon Ayuk, David Johnson, Deontay Harris, Deshaun Jackson, and Dalton Schultz, since we're not counting Spanish Cole Beasley.
I'll go with Deontay Johnson.
Really?
Coming off. And then either Deontay Johnson or I forget the first. Give me the first.
Brandon Ayuk was the first one I mentioned.
Brandon Ayuk. I like he actually outscored Deebo Samuel last week. I think he's in for a bigger role in the offense. So if you're like, I'm kind of worried about Deontay Johnson coming off that injury, and you want to see what Brandon Ayuk.
So I previously had Jalen Reagor just because I thought it might turn into a shootout between Kansas City and Philadelphia, but I'm worried about, if they're even in a shootout, can they shoot? Right. So I is the other
I'm
one
not
I was
big on Reagor at all. I think he had his chance, and hasn't. And even in that, just Jalen Hurts is a bad quarterback overall. And if Jalen Hurts couldn't run, then I think he wouldn't be even considered a fantasy value. So I would ignore Jalen Reagor.
Okay, that helps me.
A
lot of people have been warming up to him because he's getting a bigger target share as the year went along. That's probably why he's heating up, or at least perceived as heating up.
Yeah, he's doing better than he did last season, but it's just that offense as a whole. Until he really starts putting up points, I think the most points he's put up thus far is like 5.5. Let me see. I'll look at his numbers right now. Okay, so he's doing better than I thought. He had 17 points in week 1, and then 10 points in week 3. He's Devontae Smith is sort of more of the guy there, but he's actually less points than Jalen Reagor.
Reagor's been their leading receiver so far this year.
Yeah, that might be the play. Who are the Eagles playing?
The Eagles playing Kansas City. Hence the shootout I mentioned, or possible.
That passing defense is tough, though.
Yep, that's the only reason it was a question, right? That's why it was a question for me. It's like because I've been rolling with Reagor, but then since I had you here, I was like, maybe I should hear what you have to say. Ayuk certainly has the potential to have a big game. And Deshaun Jackson is sort of, the classic boomer bust
for sure
guy, right, at the Z receiver position, where he either does nothing or gets you 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, he already boomed last week, so I don't expect a double boom.
Right.
So give me your top 3 guys again, one more time. Please.
So since you already said no to Spanish Cole Beasley, that leaves you with the possibilities of Jalen Reagor, Brandon Ayuk, David Johnson. Probably not. Yeah. Deontay Harris, Deshaun Jackson, and Dalton Schultz are all people I could throw into my flex.
Yeah, I said no to Jalen Reagor, but
now you're saying yes.
Actually, looked at those numbers. I think I'll go with Jalen.
Yeah, well, he delivered for me in the past, but I'm always a little nervous. But yeah, okay. Thank you. That is helpful.
Oh, you're welcome.
This is a very sad subject for me to approach here, and I want you to know I really do this with a heavy heart. And I'm looking at the Steelers' schedule here, and most of you know at the beginning of the season, I said it would be a success if we went 9-8. as I look at this schedule, and since Cincinnati has already beaten us once, I'm very hard pressed to find a Steelers team that can win 5 games.
Hey, I think we get to 5 still, James. Pencil it in. 5
well,
and 12, baby.
Well, okay, I penciled in 5 and 12, but I also think that if I pencil in 5 and 12, which will be, and I understand it's going to be his first losing season ever, which is the question: is this going to be Mike Tomlin's first losing season? And number two, if we go 5 and 12 or 4 and 13. Is Mike still going to have a job? Because Big Ben's going out the door. I'm just worried that he's going to take Mike with him. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually saw a Vegas situation. I believe it was Vegas. I'm not 100% sure because I wasn't on the Vegas website to give you an exact definite. But I was on Twitter and I saw a listing of odds of coaches being fired, and Mike Tomlin was on that. And I'm like, hell no. Mike Tomlin is not going to give, and nor should he
if
get
somebody
fired.
will take that bet, take grandma's insulin money, take the rent money, take the money you were saving that you told people to hide from you and not give you to gamble with, all that money that you hid from yourself, find it all and bet it. He's not getting fired. That's free money they're giving away.
Totally free money. Not only is the Steelers organization never fired a coach, I don't say. Well, I think they all retired. If I'm mistaken, right, but I don't remember them.
They have fired coaches in the past, but it's been a minute. Not in your lifetime, but yes, they've. Somewhere Buddy Ace Parker is, turning over his grave saying, "What about me?" But
So since Chuck Noll was the head coach, they all retired. And not only that, but he's a great coach. I mean, he not only does he blend leadership qualities, and he's a player's coach, and he can do discipline. There are very few coaches out there that can do discipline with these youngins and still be a player's coach, and he's one of them. So I would be furious. I would be so furious as the Steelers, and I don't even care about the Steelers, but be furious if Mike Tomlin got fired.
First of all, if you fired Mike Tomlin, he would be unemployed for 0.8 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
Who are you going to replace him with? Who's better?
Right.
Who you getting? You getting Belichick? You getting Andy Reid? I want to understand what's your next move if you're firing Mike Tomlin.
Exactly.
Who's walking through that door who's going to command more respect from players? I'll wait for my answer.
Yeah, nobody. So yeah, it's ridiculous that he was even on that list.
Okay. So if that bet is still available, people, take all the money you have and money you can borrow and bet
it.
Yep. Rumor number 2 coming out of Pittsburgh, and I talked to a few fans. I think it's very far-fetched because I don't see any way that we can manipulate the salary cap. But there are rumors that Aaron Rodgers has said that he would like to come to Pittsburgh next year. So this is another one of those. I mean, sounds good. Sounds very good on paper. And I could believe.
And James, I would like for Halle Berry to return my calls.
Well, hey, maybe 20 years ago I wanted it to, but not now. Been a little used right now. I can go almost to any junkyard. But anyway, that's another.
Oh my God.
That's another subject. But anyway, since we're talking about rumors, Pittsburgh does have the wide receivers. Pittsburgh doesn't have the old line.
No.
But if weather's kind of similar, but it is feasible as far as rumors. But gentlemen, what do you think? and it's no doubt that he would fit in Pittsburgh. But what's your thoughts, gentlemen? If Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, would Pittsburgh be a viable option?
Do you mean in the real world, or are you talking about a bunch of ninth graders playing Madden online?
I think two things are true. Aaron Rodgers will not be in Green Bay next year. And Big Ben will not be in Pittsburgh next year. Those two
things are incontrovertibly true.
Right. So we're talking about whatever happened in that land of in between, whether it's Peter Pan or Jurassic Park, or
So that's what I'm saying. If you're playing,
you want to, you can take it to Disneyland. Hey.
So if you are literally playing a video game and you've turned the salary cap option off, then this is very much a thing we should discuss. But if you're talking about actual real NFL football, where the salary cap is very much turned on, and Aaron Rodgers is, if you wouldn't give the team that drafted him and where he spent his entire professional career a home team discount, he's unlikely to give the new team discount to Pittsburgh or whoever else would be, so he's going to fit under the cap. I would look at the teams that have cap space, right? And one of the teams, this will make Mike happy, that actually could make it work cap-wise is, drum roll please, the Colts. I don't know if they would do it, but they could.
Yeah, they definitely have the cap space. I don't think they will, just because Carson Wentz is there and they're pretty much hitched to him for next year. But
I like Carson Wentz just fine, but if Aaron Charles Rodgers is available, Carson Wentz can learn for watching it.
Yeah.
Well, and absolutely.
If Aaron calls the Colts, Mike, I think you're going to take the call. You might even ask Carson Wentz to answer it.
And what you're saying is absolutely correct, except for there's this little part that Tom Brady actually wanted to be a Colt.
And I remember that.
Yes, they said, no, Tom, no. We'd rather go with Phillip Rivers here. So
in fact, Tom Brady talked about this, right? When he was at the LeBron James, what do they call it, the barbershop thing? Remember that?
Yeah, I saw it. That's what I'm saying. Maybe the Colts learned from their mistake.
And maybe that's what it is for sure. I just go by history right now, and it's like if they pass on Tom Brady, then Aaron Rodgers, who knows? But yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers for sure would be wonderful in the blue and white.
Okay, back to reality. And I really wanted Demetrius to be here for this.
I know you did. You dirty dog. You're I like you, but you're not always a good person.
Okay. Who gets that first W? The Colts or the Lions?
Shit, the way the Colts have been playing. Oh my God. The Lions should have won last week, just in time.
Coulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah, 68-yard field goal or whatever that was. But I think Colts win this week. I don't know if the Lions do.
Bill?
I would love to back the Lions, and they are. If you're looking for signs of life and light, reasons to believe and to, keep waking up in the morning as a Detroit Lions fan. I can already see this team is more competitive, playing smarter, but there is a talent issue still on that team. And I think Demetrius would agree with me that there's a talent gap between them and the better teams still in the league. The good news is they have a bunch of draft picks in the next few years, and they have a chance to fill that talent gap in. The Lions, let me see. Let me take a quick look at the Lions' schedule and see if I can give you an idea of where they might get their first win.
Well, they're playing the Bears, aren't they?
That's probably their best chance. I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at their schedule and I looked at the Steelers' schedule, and are you looking at 3-14 here? I mean,
I mean, so yeah, they've got the Bears, they've got the Vikings, and then they've got the Bengals. They're going to pick up a win sometime soon. One of those teams is going to they're going to yeah, the Bears is yeah, what the heck? I'll do it. I'll throw out the gauntlet. Yes, they get a win.
Is it going to be Marshalls? Is it going to be Target? Because you have to be talking about going to a sale.
I mean, I'm going to give it to them. Yes, Lions, get your win, baby. Go ahead and get your win. If you can disguise your coverages at all, you should get a couple interceptions this week also. I like Justin Fields.
You can take both if you think both of them are going to get a win this week.
And remind me, who the Colts playing?
The Colts play the Dolphins.
Colts against the Dolphins, Lions against the Bears.
I don't like that matchup as much. So sorry, Mike. I'm not quite sold on that one yet. The Dolphins have sputtered, especially offensively, but I think that defense might get some business done against the Colts. So I'm going to keep my powder dry on that one. But there's a win coming, I promise. Soon.
I hope so.
Yeah, there's a win coming, I promise, soon. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, maybe it's the spirit of Demetrius who can't be with us here, who's speaking through me. But yes, go ahead, Lions, get that win.
Okay, all right. Mike is, Sherman. We talked about him. He's now went to the Brady Super Bowl ring rehab center. And he's now playing with the Bucs. So, but is Sherman the right rah guy for this defense? I mean, this defense has been getting, I'll put it like this: they haven't come to work the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, their passing defense has sort of fallen off a little bit. Their rushing defense has been very good. Typical Buccaneers rushing defense, but passing has just been like, what are you guys doing out there? I think depends on what is asked of Richard Sherman. I think if he's asked to play zone, that'll be much easier for him to
you better be asked to play zone.
Yeah, because man on man, he's just going to get burned. So yeah, I think if he's in the zone, I don't know if he's even going to be playing full time defensive back. He probably play in third down kind of situation. So he's a future Hall of Famer. So whenever you have a future Hall of Famer on the field, you're going to recognize that and you have that in the back of your mind. But just too few of a place to make an, I think, overall difference in that Buccaneers defense.
Hey man, look here. As far as I'm concerned, if Josh Gordon's got a job, Richard Sherman should have a job, Colin Kaepernick should have a job.
There's a long list of people who should get lining up to get jobs if we're handing out jobs now.
Yeah, so I mean, other than that type of role that he had in San Francisco. And that of being a future Hall of Famer, is he brought into Tampa? I mean, to be more than a presence in that locker room, and as Mike was saying, maybe third down, the 5 package or whatever.
He has to be more than just a presence in the locker room. I mean, they're not in that situation. They haven't won it yet. Like, they can't just start adding dudes because they like them. He's got to still be able to play a little bit. And the whole future Hall of Famer thing, I hope you're right, but there's a lot of really good corners in the history of the game who are still waiting. Pat Fisher is still waiting to get in. Ronnie Barber is still waiting to get in. Mind-blowingly, right? I mean, I cannot believe we're still waiting. I mean, and he died waiting. Kenny Riley is still waiting to get in the Hall of Fame. There's a bunch of great corners who are just Everson Walls, Dave Brown. There's a long list of great corners that aren't in the Hall of Fame. And I don't know if he's better than a lot of the guys I just named. But in fact, Everson Walls is basically just the first version of him, right? Zone only, 4.8 40 time. corner who had great ball skills and was long and strong, couldn't run with a lick, but was still a great corner in because he gave him help over the top all the time. So that was, I mean, people don't realize how great, or some people, 47 career interceptions for him, 60 for Riley. Dave Brown's over 50 career interceptions. He's not in the Hall. So there's a long list of Dave Grayson, right? The best cover corner in the history of the AFL. I spoke to Willie Brown before he passed when he was in town for the draft, when the draft was here in Chicago. He was literally out buying a pack of cigarettes. And went around, he sort of snuck away from the draft to go buy a pack of cigarettes in like a White Inn pantry or whatever. And I pulled him aside and said, hey, Mr. Brown, I'm a big fan of yours. Not a fan of your team, but a fan of yours. And, he kind of laughed. And I said, who was the best corner you ever saw? He said, well, nowadays, and you have some young guys. And I said, well, back in your day, he said Dave Grayson. Played with him twice. Played with him with the Broncos, and then later they were reunited with the Raiders. He said that's, and it said, we both said, I can't believe he's not in the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of great corners not in the Hall of Fame. I hope that you're right that he gets in, but there's a lot of corners still waiting.
Good point. Yeah. Did you call him Old Man Willie or?
I didn't. Not to his face, no. Man, still 6'2" and 200 pounds. He was probably 70, but I wasn't ready to fight a 70-year-old.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Elephant in the room. Bills 17.5 points favorite over the Texans. Bill, you want to take that?
I can't imagine still taking the Bills. I either stay the heck away from that game altogether or I take the points. I mean, that's a lot of points. Think of how many, literally like a blocked field goal there's all kinds of things that can go crazy wrong in a football game. You give up a touchdown on a kickoff return, a batted ball interception, it turns into a pick six. There's so many ways to not cover that many points. I know they're trying to get that's the whole point of setting a line like that, is to get some money flowing, because there was no money flowing on that game before. It was all either people were just staying out on that game or they were all betting on the Bills side. And so you don't want that, right? That's the whole point of moving the line, is to try to get some money going on the other side. But I would either just avoid that game altogether or I'm taking that's a lot of points. I mean, it's so hard to cover that number of points. I won't say it's impossible because it happens, but this is the NFL. And most games are decided by, less than 90-something percent. I mean, was it almost 92%, 91% of the games are decided by less than 10 points?
Oh, yeah. They're normally like 3.5.
Right,
those kind
right.
Of things, yeah.
And I think the percentage of games that are double-digit wins is like 9% or something.
No.
There's just so many things that go wrong. I'm taking the points. I'm taking the dog. I'm not.
The double digits are one thing, but 17.5 is a whole.
Well, that's the point I'm making. That's 2 touchdowns, a field goal, and the hook.
And the hook. So yeah, your thoughts, Mike? 17.5, and it's the Bills. It's not like it's
the Bills are a good football team, but they're not. Right. They're not the 72 Dolphins yet.
They're not a team that normally, under normal circumstances, are going to put up a whole lot of points. They'll put up steady points if they give you seven points a quarter, and then and the game is 28-14. That's a good game, So I haven't known the Bills to just have a lot of shootouts, even if this is the Texans, Mike.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I take the points on this. 17 is just unfathomable to me. The Texans can run the ground. They can run that clock. So yeah, 17 is just way too much for I would definitely take the points on that situation.
Okay, guys, I say this question for last before we make our predictions. Mike, how many fantasy points does Tom put up in Foxborough this Sunday?
He's going to put up a ton. Fantasy? You're talking fantasy points?
I'm talking fantasy points with 4 points for a touchdown.
4 points per touchdown, 416, 300. I'd say he puts a 38 fantasy points.
Bill,
Oh,
higher
you're
or
right.
lower?
They're not in one of my leagues. You're right.
Higher or lower, Bill?
I mean, that would be great. I'm thinking I'll take if I get 29, I'll be a happy man. I'm thinking he's somewhere around that. I think at some point, out of respect, I think they get off to a big lead early, and then they kind of throttle it back out of respect for his old team and teammates. I think he decides not to, completely. Though he is a petty man. I mean, as I've talked about before, my greatness of pettiness or the pettiness of greatness. Rant I've gone on before, but yeah, that's what I see. And then a little more lineup setting. So I'll ask you, Mike, once again. I've got Russell Wilson starting at quarterback. Because we only have one quarterback anyway. I've got Aaron Jones, Chris Carson, Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, still Dalton Schultz. I got to do something about that at some point. Right now, I've got Melvin Gordon on my bench, so I could throw him into the flex, but Justin Jefferson's right now my flex. Robbie Anderson on the bench, Christian Kirk's on the bench, Renfro's on the bench, Sanders, Emmanuel on the bench. I've got Dallas. I'm switching Goddard in. What am I doing? Goddard's going in for Schultz. What were they doing there? And once again, I managed to get Michael Thomas, another league where I got Michael Thomas waiting, and then Mason Crosby, Saints. Other than my flex, which I'm going to consider, I'm switching out Goddard for Schultz. Anything else I should do?
What are your options again for? I mean, it sounds like a strong lineup, but go ahead and give me what you're looking at.
So my other flex options would consist of Melvin Gordon, Robbie Anderson, Christian Kirk, Hunter Renfrow, Emmanuel Sanders, Dallas Goddard. Well, Goddard's got you going into tight ends.
Goddard's going in for Schultz. Yeah, I'd go Kirk.
You go with Christian Kirk?
Yeah, it's your flex for sure.
Thank you, sir. So Justin Jefferson's going to the bench, and I'm swapping in Christian Kirk. Thank you, sir.
Whoa. I didn't know Justin Jefferson was your flex at this point. My mistake. Yeah, I think you keep Justin Jefferson in your flex for sure. I thought he was just part of your wide receiver.
Yeah, my wide receivers are Devontae Adams and DJ Moore.
Gotcha. Yeah, Justin Jefferson in your flex over Kirk.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome.
One more team that I also have, Mike, and this team.
Well, I mean, if she's willing to go, I have a friend who's got tickets for us, but I said I have to talk to Avery.
And in this particular league, let's see, I have Josh
I don't
Allen.
know if she knows that.
I have Aaron Jones. Let's see. Aaron Jones is my running back. Nick Chubb is my other running back. DJ Moore, of course, is my wide receiver. Henry Ruggs is my wide receiver 2. Tyler Higbee.
Well, plus it's a sweatshirt game. They're giving a sweatshirt for the game anyway.
Bill, we can hear you. Mute your mic. Tyler Higbee is my tight end. Robbie Anderson is my flex. I have the Rams as my defense. I'll probably have to change that. And Harrison Butler as my kicker. My quarterback on the bench is Lamar Jackson. My wide receivers are Fuller, Rondale Moore, and Rager. My backup tight end is out, Gerald Everett. And my backup running backs are Tony Pollard and J.D. McKissick.
Okay, so what exactly are you trying to figure out who to play for what position?
Well, right now I have Ruggs as my wide receiver 2, and I have Robbie Anderson as my flex. Can I change one or both of those out?
I would definitely change Robbie Anderson out. Who are your options that are on the bench right now?
Robbie Anderson is my flex, so I can go Fuller, Rager, McKissick, Rondale Moore, or Tony Pollard.
I think I'd go Rager.
Okay, and leave leave Ruggs as my wide receiver too.
Yeah. I like Ruggs. He's typically in a wide receiver 31 to 35 spot. So it's not exactly ideal to have him as a wide receiver too, but he's not going to be someone that's not going to put up less points than a flex option.
All right, well, gentlemen, if there's nothing else,
Oh, there's always something else.
go ahead. Go ahead, Bill.
So I've got a couple more. I'm in a lot of leagues. I'm in too many leagues, really, at this point. But okay, so I think I know what I'm doing with this particular lineup. Once again, it's a dynasty PPR league. I've got Josh Allen, Austin Eckler, Chris Carson, DJ Moore. I've drafted DJ Moore in a bunch of leagues. Brandon Cooks, Tyler Higbee, boom and bust, tight end, but whatever. Debo Samuels in my flex. And then it's a super flex. So I've had Jameis Winston as my super flex. On my bench, I've got Kyle Juszczyk. I've got Tyson Williams. I've got Mr. Jones, who's now worked his way into the Ronald Jones, has worked his way into the what do you call it? The
Doghouse
graces, I guess, the doghouse. But in case at some point they take him out, I'm still holding on to him. Marquise Goodwin, who I may be looking to move on from. Khalif Raymond, who I'm holding on for the future because I think he's going to eventually become a wide receiver 2 there. I'm probably getting out from under Danny Amendola, plus he's hurt. I've got Zach Pascal. I've got speaking of Steelers, or these former Steelers, I do have Mr. Antonio Brown, who's currently on my bench, but I might think about moving him into the flex spot. And then Strahan's a future pick because it's dynasty. Probably getting rid of Mr. Miller, as I mentioned before, in another league. My backup tight ends are Doyle and Tanyan. Doyle I'm probably getting out from under the end of this year, and then Tanyan is a future play also. So I'm trying to figure out. I'm probably sticking with Higbee, I'm guessing, though I'm not wild about him at tight end because my other two are sort of the same kind of dart throw tight ends in Tanyan and Doyle. But I'm open to ideas. I also had A.J. Brown, but I have him on the bench until he's healthy again. And then my flex and super flex are Debo Samuel and Jameis Winston. Is there anything I should do either at my wide receiver 2, which is currently Cooks, my flex, which is currently Debo, my super flex, which is currently Jameis, and once again, I guess tight end even, but I'm guessing Higbee's probably as good as it gets amongst, that tier of tight end.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much of a toss-up between Antonio Brown and Debo Samuel as far as that second flex there. I wouldn't move your quarterback out of there. So I'm gonna go Antonio Brown over Debo.
Oh, okay. I will make that change. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, let's get to our picks for this week. And of course, I always start with Thursday night because Thursday night is our show, so we don't really get a chance to talk much about it. But and plus, Mike, you aren't there on Thursday nights. So our Thursday night game would be the Rams against the Seahawks. Who do you have, Mike?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think it's like what do the Rams do this week? If they're 4-0, then I might go Seattle, especially since they're playing in Seattle. But if they lose, then I'm going to go with the Rams. I'm going to go Rams anyways. Why not? Even though they're going to be on the road, I'll go Los Angeles on this game.
Who you got, Bill?
Oh, I think Bill's muted.
Well, muted when we don't need him, and oh, okay, all right. So, all right. Well, then I guess we'll come back to Bill and get his pick in a minute. Okay. Who did I have next here? Where's my schedule? Where is my schedule? maybe we'll get Bill back while I'm hunting through here.
You did. You got Bill back.
Oh,
So while
okay.
you're hunting, I'll keep setting lineups. So I have one more league.
No, well, go ahead and then because we already made our pick for Thursday night.
So this is
go
it.
ahead.
One more league left. So Joe Mixon already went and gave me, decent showing. I got literally nothing from DJ Chark. Thanks a lot. But I still have Justin Herbert, DJ Moore, Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, and TJ Hawkinson. On my bench, I have Brandon Cooks, Melvin Gordon, Tony Pollard, Darius Slayton, and Zach Moss. My kicker in this league is Greg Joseph of the Minnesota Vikings. And then the Cincinnati defense did not do well. So I really need to maximize the points that I still have left from my quarterback, wide receiver 1, running backs 1 and 2, and Hawkinson I feel good about. Yes. So and I can always hit the waiver wire if needed, but anybody amongst the players I currently have that you think should be in my lineup that are not.
Can you run me down one more time?
Yes. So T. Higgins was on my bench because he was hurt. Right. Brandon Cooks is on my bench. Melvin Gordon is on my bench. Tony Pollard's on my bench. Darius Slayton he's out anyway. He's hurt. Tony Pollard and Zach Moss are also on my bench amongst healthy players.
Brandon Cooks and I forget the other person.
So Brandon Cooks, Melvin Gordon, Tony Pollard, Darius Slayton, and Zach Moss are the healthy guys on my bench. And then, like I said, I have Higgins and Slayton who are hurt.
So Brandon Cooks and Melvin Gordon, especially Brandon Cooks.
Should I put him in over? No, Mixon already went. So my flex is taken. So I have DJ Moore. Right, because I should have put him in over. Oh God, I'm so mad at myself. But so DJ Moore, I guess, is who we go in for. Huh? Is that so? Would I put Cooks over Moore?
I'd keep Moore over.
Okay, so I'm keeping Moore where he is. My running backs are Jonathan Taylor and Austin Eckler, and so the guys I can switch them for would either be Tony Pollard or Melvin Gordon, the third. Nah, or Zach Moss. I don't really trust him anyway, so no.
Yeah. No.
And then I've got Greg Joseph at kicker. I can always check the waiver wire. Are there any kickers that you think might go off this week?
I haven't looked at that situation, so to be honest with you, I would have no idea.
All right. Yeah, let's check.
Rodrigo, if he's out there,
I will check to see if he's available. That's what I will do now. Thank you, sir.
Bill, Thursday night game. The Rams against the Seahawks.
We asking me or asking Mike?
I said Bill.
Oh, okay. Rams.
Mike gave his while you were on the phone.
Oh, okay. Rams. Yeah. I mean, I think it'll be, close-ish, 7 to 10 points, but I just think the Rams are better at even at quarterback, it's really close, actually. It used to be that we would say, the Rams, are hindered by their restrictor plate quarterback, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's no longer the case. Now they have the better defense. Their running game is probably not as good as Seattle's, but good enough for them to have effective play action. And they're better at every other position I can think of. Their offensive line's better. Their defensive line is better. Their linebackers are push. It's about even. And their secondary is better. So, yes, when you're winning at all but one or two positions over the other team, yes, I'm going to go with the Rams.
Mike, one thing we didn't talk about, you had Quentin Nelson go on IR this morning.
Yes.
Any impact on the game plan?
Yeah, well, definitely on Jonathan Taylor for sure. When Jonathan Taylor runs the ball, he runs right behind Quentin Nelson. So, yeah, it's going to hamper their protection. It's going to hamper their running game. But luckily, they get a very easy Miami Dolphins who just can't stop the run at all. So, if this was the Rams or if this was like the Seahawks, then I'd be very, very worried about Jonathan Taylor's production. But it's one of those things where it is concerning, but I think Jonathan Taylor would be fine just because, you know, you don't have your right guard, but you also don't have a defense in front of you either. So they're blocking nobody. So it doesn't matter who's that right guard or left guard. I don't know what. I think he's right guard.
I think he's your right guard.
Yeah.
Tennessee against the Jets.
Oh, Tennessee.
Mike.
Yeah, you could. Tennessee could probably be missing every single player. They're missing AJ Brown and Julio Jones right now, but I don't think it matters. The Jets are just awful. So I'm going to go Titans here.
Bill.
Yeah, the Titans. The Titans. This is a get well game for the Titans. The Titans are about to get well.
Kansas City at Philadelphia with both of them being 1-2. Bill?
I mean, I'd love to pick Philly, but once again, I think it's going to be a closer game than some people might have expected. I think Philadelphia's going to hang in, but I mean, Kansas City's going to. I mean, they're going to win by double digits, low double digits, like not 17, but yeah, I can see them win by 10 to 13 points.
Carolina at Dallas, Bill.
This is an interesting game. Because Dallas is really starting to feel itself. This is exactly the kind of game that they lose, right? They've lost this kind of game before many times in the past. They're probably getting points too. If they're getting like 4.5, 5 points, I would definitely bet.
They're exactly getting that. They're getting 4 points.
Oh man, yeah, I might put a couple of shekels down on Carolina. In terms of just straight up, it's gonna be tight. It's gonna be a very close game. I think Dallas actually wins it outright if we're just picking wins. I think it's going to be a very close game, like 3-point game.
Mike, Kansas City at Philadelphia, and Carolina at Dallas.
I'm going to go the Chiefs, even though the Chiefs really could be 0-3 right now. They've played that badly, but I think Eagles are worse. So I'm going to go Chiefs, and then I'm going to go – I like Carolina and the upset.
Is McCall a fantasy value this week?
McCall Hardman?
Yes.
No.
Okay. All right. And anybody for Carolina that we should look to put up numbers?
Maybe Chuba Hubbard. That would be good to see. And then, of course, Ezekiel. And then the wide receiver, Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb, and Dak Prescott, and Sam Darnold, and of course DJ Moore. Those are the guys for sure.
The Giants, the Giants at the Saints, and Cleveland at Minnesota. Mike?
Giants at the Saints. I'm going to go Saints, and really Giants outside of maybe Saquon Barkley as any fantasy value. Saints, Alvin Kamara. That's about it. Unless like Bill, when you're in your double flat, when you're starting a second quarterback, then yeah,
right,
for sure. Like James Winston has value there. And then I'm sorry, James. What was the other teams?
Cleveland at Minnesota.
So Cleveland, outside of Hunt and Chubb, there's nobody there. And then Minnesota, Kirk Cousins. If you don't have a better 1 through 6 kind of quarterback, and then of course Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and if Dalvin Cook is out, then Alexander Madison, and vice versa. If Dalvin Cook's in, then you're definitely rolling out Dalvin Cook.
Bill, the Giants at the Saints and the Clowns at the Vikings.
I like the Browns to win that game. And you said, the Saints. Yeah. So, yeah, chalk, basically. And I think both those teams might even cover.
Okay. Bill, Detroit at Cincinnati. Houston at Buffalo.
Wait, Detroit at Cincinnati.
Detroit's Chicago.
I mean Detroit at Chicago. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say that doesn't sound right. Well, yeah, I kind of, once again, in the spirit of my spiritual brother Demetrius Verdes, and in his spirit and in his stead, I'll be picking the Lions to finally get a win.
And Houston at Buffalo. We're not talking about the 14.5. We're talking about straight up here.
Right. If we're just talking straight up, I mean, there's a reason that line is so out of whack. It's because that team is going to struggle all year to get wins. They're going to, once again, they're a team that's going to be about a 4 or 5 win team. But yeah, they're not getting a win here. Buffalo, I don't think by 17.5, but double digits.
Detroit at Chicago, fantasy value, and Houston at Buffalo. Mike?
So Detroit, Chicago, definitely TJ Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift. Those are your 2 value plays.
That was the other guy that you gave us last week, TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, he busted. He won't. I don't believe he'll have 2 straight games.
Yeah, that was it. TJ and AJ. Yeah,
the middle initial guys. I wonder if they're both middle names or John. That would be interesting.
Bill, we got somebody that knows. Bill.
Oh, you're talking about TJ? What TJ stands for in his case?
Yes.
TJ and AJ.
In the case of Arthur Brown Jr. If you're talking about AJ Brown, it's Arthur Brown Jr. Right? And in the case of TJ Hawkinson, I believe, and let me just confirm, because I know it's Trent John in the case of TJ Watt. In the case of TJ Hawkinson, I believe it may be Thomas. I'll tell you exactly what it is in a second. Let's see.
So while Bill's doing that, I'll do fantasy Bears.
Yep, Thomas James, actually. It's Thomas. I knew the first name was Thomas James Hawkinson.
What about AJ Brown?
Already said, it's Arthur Brown Jr.
No, what's the J for?
Jr.
It's
Arthur Jr.
AJ Brown?
He's
Jr.
Arthur Brown Jr. Yes, I told you that before. It's Arthur Brown Jr. It's the J is for Jr. He's Arthur Jr.
Oh, so it's Arthur Jr. Brown, not Arthur
Well,
Brown.
no,
Jr.?
I mean, it's, like some people call you, if you're Robert something, whatever, and your father is also Robert, they call you RJ, even though the J isn't your middle name.
Okay.
Okay.
All
right. Yeah.
So,
okay.
what was your other one there? Houston and Buffalo.
Houston and Buffalo. Houston, you're going to go only Cooks. And then Buffalo, you'll go Diggs, you'll go Allen, Cole Beasley in a flex situation. Outside of that, I don't. There's no, maybe Dawson Knox, because Knox has been playing pretty well at the tight end position.
Okay, sticking with you, Mike. Indiana at Miami, and Washington at Atlanta.
So with those, Jonathan Taylor, maybe Michael Pittman, maybe, and then Miami, probably Myles Gaskin and Mike Gesicki for your tight end, Jalen Waddle maybe at wide receiver, and then what was the other 2? What was the other competition?
Washington at Atlanta.
So Washington. For sure, you're going to go Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, and then Atlanta, Cordell Patterson at the flex, Kyle Pitts probably because you drafted him early and he's, whatever. And then you're going to go the wide receiver. What's his name? I'm drawing a blank.
Calvin Ridley.
Kevin Ridley. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Bill. Indiana, Miami, Washington, Atlanta.
The Indianapolis Colts, I don't think, as I said before, we talked about first wins. I don't think Miami is their victim. I think their victim is still in the future. And what was the other game?
Washington at Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta is going to be hard-pressed to find many wins this year, and I don't think this is going to be one of them. I think the Washington football team really establishes the run and shortens the game. And then they get after Matty Ice and they melt him a little bit.
Okay. Seattle at San Francisco, Arizona at the Rams. Bill,
Wait, hold on. Did we just pick a Seattle game?
you picked the Thursday night game.
Oh, okay. I was just making sure. I guess this is a little bit of an upset, but I will pick Seattle here. I think that these two teams know each other obviously very, very well. I think that Seattle gets a couple of big plays early to Tyler Lockett, gets a bit of a lead, and then forces the 49ers to make some mistakes on offense. And then, what was the other game?
Arizona at the Rams.
That'll be a good game. Woo! I'm going to still roll with the Rams, though. I think the Rams get off to a really great start. I think they might be the last team to lose a game this season.
Oh, okay. Mike?
As far as Arizona and the Rams, Arizona, Kyler Murray, and then Christian Kirk, I like. Rondale Moore, maybe. DeAndre Hopkins, maybe. I mean, I know that DeAndre Hopkins is, a great wide receiver, but he is sort of banged up, and it's just not doing what DeAndre Hopkins normally does. So I think he's still starting, but just temper expectations out of him. And then Seattle, you're going to go, of course, Russell Wilson, Chris Carson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and that's about it. Oh, the Rams. I forgot the Rams team. Matthew Stafford, if you don't have anybody else in the top 6, he's one of those guys too. Then I don't know if anybody's stopping Cooper Kupp. That guy's been amazing.
So here's a fun fact, right? Since he's entered the league, he has never been outside of the top 4 in yards after catch. He's never been outside of number 4 since he's in the league in yards after catch. I bet people would not guess that correctly.
No, probably not. Especially. I mean, whenever you think of a wide receiver, you don't think someone who's going to be yards
He's
after
a monster
the catch.
after the catch, but he is.
Yes, definitely is. I would never have guessed that. I know he's good after the catch, but to say he's in top 4 or whatever,
he's actually great.
Nah.
That's the thing. Like, he's not just good; he's actually great after the catch.
Oh yeah, the top 4. Jesus Christ. And then I don't know who's playing. If Darrell Henderson is playing, then I probably go Henderson. I don't trust Sony Michel all that much. So
I think Henderson's not. I have Henderson, and he's listed. I think it's doubtful officially, but I don't think he's going to go.
Yeah, if it's doubtful, then it's probably going to be Michel. I don't trust Sony Michel all that much, so I'd leave both of the running backs on your bench.
Bill, your thoughts on those two? Oh, see, no, I got you. Let's see.
Yep.
Yeah. Pittsburgh at Green Bay.
Oh, boy.
And the Ravens at the Broncos, at the undefeated Broncos, I should add.
I think the Ravens do hand the undefeated Broncos their first loss, but it's going to be a game. This might be the best in terms of total competitive balance, the best game. Might be the best. Well, again, I guess right there with that Rams-Arizona game. There'll be different kinds of really good games. So, like, 2 great defenses and 2 offenses that can occasionally make big plays in one game versus 2 defenses that occasionally make big plays with great offenses, right? We're talking about the Rams and the Cardinals game. But this game, if you like really well-balanced, all-around great football games, I think that's what the game's going to be. I think you're going to see defenses make big plays, sacks, strip sacks, maybe an interception or 2, and the occasional big play on offense. Lamar, gets out on the edge, makes somebody miss, sucks up the defense and drives the ball down deep, or takes off and runs for 30 yards, that kind of thing. And though Teddy Two Gloves is not that kind of spectacular player, watch for him to hang in there, read a blitz out, let a nickel blitzer come and hit him in the ribs, and then still make a big play down the field to Noah Fant, or a big play down the field to Judy, or is my boy Cortland Sutton healthy again? I hope he is. If Sutton's healthy, watch for him to have a better game than people are expecting. I think it's going to be a really good game, but I'm going to say that the Ravens, who just know how to win tight games, find a way to win that game. Once again, Justin Tucker, 48-yarder with time running out, that kind of thing.
Well, to sort of speak to your point, guess what the line is on this game?
Is it 3?
No.
What is it?
Even.
Oh, wow. Woo! This game's going to be so good.
Yeah, so what you're saying is exactly what Vegas is saying, the same thing. It's going to be one of those last seconds, either McManus or a Tucker field goal with time running out.
If you get a bonus for having the game winning, if there's some leagues have bonuses for game winning field goals, you might want to add one of those guys if you don't love your kicker.
You have field goal extra for yardage, but I don't think, let's see, because like I said,
there are some leagues, where they do, where you get a bonus for game winners. But if not, then I guess it doesn't make that much sense. But Tucker's good to have just because he just.
Yeah, I mean, anything over 60 yards is automatically 6 points. I mean, 3 points for the field goal and 3-point bonus for over 50 yards. So,
right.
Yeah, and so, did you pick the Green Bay?
I was hoping you'd forget to ask about that, but okay, sure. So
how can I forget? I'm waiting for win number 2.
Yeah, so if there is a game that does make people say silly stuff like we should fire Mike Tomlin, this might be that game. But if you're looking for a silver-ish lining, I think this is a game that gets the defense to simplify some things, right? I think that some of the embarrassing things that happen in this game will force them to say, hey, maybe we don't need to have as many different rotations and calls. Maybe we can play the game a little more straight up. I think this is the game that exposes that. This is a talented defense, but at times they get a little too, in my mind, a little too cute on defense. There's times they get caught trying to move late. And I get you're trying to, but you're not going to fool Aaron Rodgers. I mean, just play the game. And you're going to lose anyway, but at least don't make it easier for him by moving yourself out of position, trying to fool him. It's a double-digit win for the Packers.
Any fantasy vet? Well, go ahead, Mike. Pittsburgh, Green Bay, Baltimore, Denver. I look for that to be much more competitive. When you look at Teddy Bridgewater and Lamar Jackson, you have to give, as far as fantasy value, you have to give the edge to Bridgewater. But as far as actual numbers being played in the game, Mark, is there a difference? I mean, we all know the discrepancy between fantasy value and actual football value.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I think probably in both for Lamar Jackson, I take Lamar Jackson in fantasy and football. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is solid quarterback, but he's not going to do anything else other than throw, 5 to 7 yard hitch routes or in routes, and that's all you're going to get out of him. But Lamar Jackson can do, not only run, but he's accurate in the short to intermediate. And he has a stronger arm than Teddy Bridgewater does. So I would definitely lean more in both categories towards Lamar Jackson against Teddy Bridgewater.
I will say this, Mike, and I don't know if you've checked recently, but he's on career pace in terms of his both adjusted and raw yards per attempt. He's been driving the ball down the field by almost 2 yards above his career average.
Teddy Bridgewater?
Did you not know that?
No, I didn't. I've heard that he's gone deeper with his passes than he did.
Yep.
But I didn't know exactly
It's 1.8 something, but yeah, it's almost 2 yards above his career average.
That's good. I mean, that's good for him. I think that's a very important part to do. I mean, if you're only a short to intermediate, then you're just going to get the safeties and linebackers to sort of, play in that area. And then you'd have to be a lot more accurate. So for him to go deeper and be able to do so is going to definitely help his game. I still don't start him unless you're in a QB league.
Right.
As far as the other guys, I like Tim Patrick still. I do Cortland Sutton. He's hit and miss right now. I don't understand. Week 1, he was invisible. Week 3, he was invisible, but week 2, he was very much more like a Cortland Sutton kind of guy. So I don't know if it's going to be an every other week thing, but I'd like to see him get more involved and be the Cortland Sutton that, he is a very good route runner and he can do good things. Ravens, Lamar Jackson, obviously. Hollywood Brown is having a good season. I don't know if you can trust any of those running backs in Baltimore, but in Denver, Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, maybe a late flex for Javonte Williams. Melvin Gordon is a very good flex option. In Pittsburgh versus Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae.
What about the tight ends for either team, Baltimore?
Good point. You're right. I missed that. Mark Andrews and not Dawson Knox.
Robert Tonyan.
Tonyan's to Green Bay.
Denver's tight end is
Fant.
Fant, thank you. Noah Fant. Both of those are good plays as well. Steelers, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Najee Harris, maybe Pat Freiermuth, maybe. I know he's up and coming. He sort of buried Eric Ebron on the bench, but he's still a rookie, so I don't trust him yet. I don't like Robert Tonyan. Robert Tonyan is either going to catch a touchdown or he'll put up a goose egg. Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and Devontae Adams.
I think the only one that gets points this week is the kicker for Philadelphia, for Pittsburgh. But we'll see. Our last game of the week here. Bill, I'm going to get your predictions and your final thoughts all at the same time. Tampa Bay at New England and the Las Vegas Raiders at the LA Chargers.
Okay, so I think everybody on the planet has picked Tampa Bay. They're the better team. The better offensive line, the better defensive line, the better secondary might be the only place you can give like a definitive check mark. And even then, it's not a big difference. But
they're coming off a loss too, which
right.
Tom Brady 2 losses in a row. I don't know how often that's happened.
I think 4 times in his entire career, out of 20, however many years and however many hundreds of games. So it doesn't happen often, but it's happened a few times. But the good news, if you're a Patriots fan, is obviously this team is very familiar with his strengths and very familiar with his weaknesses. They know which things Tom doesn't like, done to him by defenses. They're going to try to do those things. They're going to bring some overload blitzes right in the A and B gaps because it's either death by 1,000 cuts or more swift death. And I have a feeling that he's not going to just let Tom pick him apart. Belichick's going to force the issue. He might even get a couple of sacks and maybe even let's say like a strip sack, tip ball interception, try to keep it closer. But they have too much. They have too much on offense and too much on defense. Michael McCorkle-Jones is going to see some things he has never seen before. It's going to be rough on him. And I don't think, not that the Patriots running game has ever been super dynamic anyway, but I think they're going to get almost nothing out of the running game. They're going to put it all on Michael McCorkle-Jones, and he will not be able to hold up under that pressure. So he's going to make a couple of late mistakes, so we'll keep this game from being as close. So it's probably about a 10-point win. Not the blowout some people are expecting, but a definitive win, 10, 13, 14 points, somewhere in that range. 2 scores for Tampa Bay.
Whoever gives the name McCorkle to their kids deserves to get thrashed.
Let's see. Did you cover that other game, Bill? Las Vegas.
What was the other one?
Las Vegas.
I think this is the Raiders. And if I feel a little funny because I'm such a huge Chargers fan, but something about this Raiders team. And that's normally not how I pick games. I usually am very focused on like analytics and whatever. And the analytics say these two teams are very similar, actually, is what the analytics say. Their passing games are similar in terms of like the structures, but who gets targeted is very different, right? In the case of the Raiders, it's Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, and then one of the receivers, right? One other receiver. Sometimes it's Michael Williams. Sometimes it's sometimes it's Guyton. It's somebody else.
You mean you're talking about the Chargers now? You say
right.
Yeah, you
Right.
said
so
great.
that's what I'm saying. The two differences between the offenses are the way they're structured. The structures are similar, sorry, but it's who's targeted, right, is what's different. And then obviously the offense flows through Jacobs/Waller on the other side. They have a running back who carries the ball a lot and catches the ball a lot in Jacobs. And when he's out, they piece it together with the running backs. And then obviously nothing can ever happen to Waller. Or else I don't know what they're going to do. But Darren Waller is one of those we talked about. Like if you get one of these tight ends, you never have to worry about the tight end position ever again, except for like the bye week or if he gets hurt. He's one of those. He's up there with Kelsey. He's up there. I think in my mind, he's above Kittle.
I agree.
Hawkinson will someday get there, but is not there yet. And then that's a question mark. The Jared Cook, I think at some point is going to give way to a kid named Donald Parham. Write this down. Who's 6'7" and 3/4 from Stetson, the Hatters of Stetson University, a non-scholarship program at the FCS program. But I spotted this kid a couple of years ago in college, and I was like, this guy's gonna be a star one day. He knocked around the AAF, the XFL, and I kept telling everybody, listen, he's going to be a star one day. At some point, Jared Cook's going to give way to this kid, and he's going to and he can run, right? He's 4'6" in the 40 at 6'7" and 248 pounds, 6'7" and change, almost 6'8". He's a special talent. But I get it. Jared Cook's a veteran. They're riding with him so far. But at some point, Donald Parham's going to get that job. I'm leading very slight. Once again, very close game. This is like a 3 or less point game in my mind, and I'm just barely leaning towards the Raiders.
And your final thoughts?
Well, my final thoughts. People have talked a lot about Josh Gordon, right? And I understand it. I really do. But this is a young man who's battling a disease that could literally take his life. And when other people are battling potentially deadly diseases, we're usually pretty kind to them. We're usually pretty careful about how we talk about them. And for whatever reason, we don't seem to treat the disease of addiction the same way we might treat cancer, right? Or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. And no more than anyone who's suffering from any of these other diseases did he ask for this. This is not just a failure of his character or his intelligence or whatever. He had a genetic predisposition towards this disease, and unknowingly, I'm assuming unknowingly, because I don't think he knew he had this genetic predisposition, he exposed himself to drugs, alcohol, or probably both. Probably happened while he was too young to really understand the full ramifications thereof, and has been in a fight with this ever since. I'm not rooting so much for him to have a great football career. I'm not rooting so much for him to prove people right or prove people wrong or whatever. I'm rooting, one, for him to be able to stay healthy, for him to have a long, healthy life. And if he can also, with that, be a beacon, be an example to other young people who are battling with this potentially deadly illness, then I hope that comes out of it. I hope that football is not the thing that takes precedence in his life, because that's part of what's caused him to lose focus in the past. I hope his first focus is on his sobriety. And if he keeps his focus on that, I think that whatever happens with football will just be gravy. That is my final thought.
I like it.
I like that too. And I sincerely hope that you're right. We'll see. Hopefully football is not his enabler, as it has, in my eyesight, it has become over the years. But I hope you're right, Bill, and I appreciate those final thoughts. Mike, hey man, another Saturday went by. Another 2-hour program in the books. Mike, why don't you give us your thoughts on these last 2 games? Tampa Bay, New England. The Raiders at the Chargers, the fantasy values, and your final thoughts for this afternoon.
Will do. So Tampa Bay, New England. Tampa Bay, of course, you're going to go with Tom Brady. Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, and of course Chris Godwin.
Is there anybody from Tampa Bay we shouldn't start?
None of the running backs. None of the running backs. Ignore the running backs whatsoever.
Okay. All
But it's hard to say as far as the wide receivers because they're all obviously really good, but usually only two of the three are going to show out. You just don't know which two of the three or which is going to be the odd man out. But through the first 3 weeks, I know Antonio Brown didn't play last week, but I guess the first 2 weeks, it was 1 week was Chris Godwin. The following week was Mike Evans. So it's going to be interesting to see which one is going to be not the guy. But I don't think you can't start any of those three. And then as far as New England, Damian Harris has some value, maybe as a flex option. And then wide receivers, forget about it. There's really...
Is that with the loss of James White?
Yeah, James White. I would definitely be James White, especially in flex. But because he's gone for the season, then yeah. And then I don't think you can trust any of the. I mean, Jacoby Myers is getting. He's catching
targets.
Yeah, he's getting targets. He has over 100 receptions and still hasn't found the end zone yet.
Touchdown. Yep.
Yeah, that's mind-boggling to me.
He's chasing an NFL record.
What do you know the number for that?
He's close. I think he has only like 4 more to go or something to catch the record and 5 to tie. 4 to tie and 5 to take it. Something like that. 5
to take it. That might be this week. Maybe he gets man-on-man coverage with Richard Sherman and then catches the touchdown.
Breaks the. Oh, that might be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah. But I think you can think about playing Jacoby in the slot. But other than that, yeah. The Raiders, again, Hunter Renfrow is another guy that you can definitely consider playing in the slot. I like Henry Ruggs also in the slot kind of area as well. I mean, slot. I don't know why I'm saying slot. Flex. I don't know what's going on. If Jacobs is going to be healthy enough, if it's going to be Kenyon Drake, who's never really been. I don't even know why they signed him to such a huge contract because he's done absolutely zero. And if not, then you have Peyton Barber. So
I'm hoping because I picked up Peyton Barber and I'm playing him, so I'm hoping it's Barber.
Yeah, definitely make sure Jacobs isn't playing because it's good if Jacobs not playing, Jacobs is playing, then I don't know how much action Peyton Barber is going to get. And then the Chargers, Bill covered this pretty well. Both teams here, Keenan Allen, Michael Williams, Justin Herbert, Derek Carr for the Raiders, Darren Waller. I agree with Bill as well. Donald Parham. I think he's not going to be yet, but he's definitely
he's coming.
He's coming, and so just sort of keep him if you're in a dynasty league. Don't let him go yet.
Mike, I have. I don't know whether it's a quandary but I've had an offer, and I really want to take it. And someone has offered me Mike Williams for Keenan Allen straight up.
Oof.
I like Mike Williams because he scores touchdowns and he scores points. Keenan Allen gets me yards.
Yes.
Michael Williams gets me fantasy points. What do you think about that?
I actually this year, I think this is the season Mike Williams puts it all together and gets that 10 touchdown, 1,200 yard season. I wouldn't do it any other year, but this year, maybe we'll see what happens next year, but this is the time to do it. Absolutely. I'd go with that trade.
Okay. Thank you. Your final thoughts, Mike?
They're not as impactful as Bills, but I'm a huge Giants fan, and there's 2 games left. The Giants have 2 games lead on the Dodgers, and I hate the Dodgers. Growing up a Giants fan, my dad taught me 2 things: you like the Giants and you hate the Dodgers. And so I'm very much hopeful that they win at least one, or the Dodgers lose one, and the Giants. I mean, this is an incredible race in the National League West. Giants have won 105 games. The Dodgers have won 103 games. And one
Yeah,
of these teams,
when we talked about it Thursday, it was 104 and 102. So
oh, 102, yeah. They both won last night. And then so it's one of those things that one of these teams, unfortunately, are not going to be able to win their division, and they're going to play a one game out in the playoffs. So one of these teams will play the Cardinals, I think, and one game. And if they lose, then their season's over after winning 104 games or whatever. And it's just one of those things that I think baseball desperately needs to fix, because when is baseball not about a series? Everything is about a series in baseball, and then you have this one game where a team that's won 104, 105 games could be knocked out of the playoffs. Disrespectful. So even though it could be the Dodgers, and I'd love to see the Dodgers get knocked out, I think they should have every opportunity to play a 3-game series. So baseball, fix it.
What do you think about Kershaw's exit?
Yeah, part of me is like, I mean, I never root for a player to be injured, and Clayton Kershaw has always been sort of, an upstanding human being, at least what I know of. He's never been in, situations where you're like, geez, dude, why are you acting this way, or done these things, or never been arrested, or,
Right.
good
all with the fans, good in the community, all that. Yep.
All that stuff. So, about his private life, who knows, I don't know, but, but as Bill mentioned, he's been an upstanding individual as far as I know. And so even though a Dodger, it's disheartening, especially this could be his last of last. So great pitcher, will be in the Hall of Fame. And, I'm not glad he's hurt, but I'm glad he's hurt at the same time, kind of thing, because especially if the Giants and Dodgers face each other, I don't want to see Kershaw. But outside of that, I hope he heals well and continues to strive to be a good human.
Any thoughts on Kershaw before we get out of here, Bill?
Well, first of all, I agree. I think he's not only Hall of Famer, probably a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, we're talking about this, big kid from Highland Park High in Texas, who's one of his best friends in the world is Matthew Stafford. And now that they're both in LA, they're barbecuing and all that cool stuff. It's a cool story, the two of them being reunited in the same city. It's a darn shame he's gotten hurt. I'm not so much a Dodgers fan, but my late father, whose maximum hero in the world really was Jackie Roosevelt Robinson, was a, it hurt him when they left Brooklyn, obviously, but he was a big-time Brooklyn Dodgers fan. And, he still followed them once they went to the West Coast, but it wasn't quite the fervor that he felt for the Brooklyn Dodgers. So, my father, even once they went west, still had a certain amount of enmity. Didn't exactly love the Giants, so he loved, Willie Mays, and respected guys like McCovey and Juan Marichal and that bunch. But, he never got over, frankly, the Dodgers leaving Brooklyn. I think it's fantastic that they have all these exciting series, and it's funny, we've gotten spoiled by the idea of all these series. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when they first started implementing these extra rounds of the playoffs. There was a time not that long ago you won the pennant or you didn't, and if you didn't, you got to watch. Yep. That's it. So the whole idea of having playoffs and all these other things and one game scenarios, all this stuff is all new or relatively new. And a lot of purists, including
just like vaccines, right, Bill?
Yes,
yeah.
Right. But I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but Bob Costas was not a fan, right? I mean, there were certain purists who were like, "No, keep it the way it was." And
I was one of them. Hey, you either win it or you don't. I mean, but I wasn't a big baseball fan, so I mean, I was more concerned about what's going on in the NFL. But I mean,
gotcha.
But
yep.
I mean, I was one of those guys. Yeah, like, but what is all these playoffs? I mean, and then. Also, people were talking about the numbers in baseball. If you weren't in the big league market, then, you were kind of left out. So, hey guys, thank you so much for letting me interrupt your Saturday morning. Next week, I'm sure Demetrius will be back. I want to get some of our other guys in. I'd like to get Regina in if we could. Mike, you might run it by her. See, if, I know she does her Thursday night thing, and we can't get her in on Thursday night either. But maybe if we could get her in for her predictions on Saturday, since it's nothing but football, then we'll see. But,
I could definitely bring it up with her, see if she's available on Saturday mornings.
All right. Well, hey, the more the merrier, and even with the few, we find to do a lot of things with so much time, so many things to talk about.
Right.
And fortunately, you have a host that really doesn't care nothing about time. I'm retired. I can do whatever I want. I'm good.
There you go. Absolutely.
So the grandkids come over, fill them up with sugar, send them home.
There you go.
I'm the good grandfather. All right, guys. Well, hey, let's all have a good week. Yeah, I know, Mike. Parents like you probably.
So Mike, if at some point you want to do like just a full-on Dynasty thing, like some other place, some other time with me, let me know, because I'm getting deeper and deeper into Dynasty, and I'd like to get better at it. But yeah, I'd love to talk to you about that at some point as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got some Restream hours available if you guys need some time. So
Okay.
I got plenty of platforms. Hey, just let me know when you need some time.
All right. Well, I'll reach out to Mike and we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. Reach out to me, and then I would love to too. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Excellent. Well,
all right, guys.
Thank you so much.
Let's have a good weekend, everyone. See you next week right here on the Sports Crib. And
Thank
the
you,
winners
gentlemen.
are.
Harvey, what more do you have on this end?